Just a minute, Praveen.
Yes.
Yeah, औरंगाबाद ब्रांच के जो एडमिन है अर्चना मैडम, राजू, जितने भी को होस्ट है सब, जितने भी ब्रांचेस हैं उनको सबको को होस्ट करो। संदीप देसरडा जी को को होस्ट करिए, मनीष गढ़िया सर को भी को होस्ट बनाइए इसमें।
वेलकम विजय सर।
पहले ब्रांचेस करून घे, मग मी तुला चेअरमन सांगते। संदीप देसरडा।
वेलकम करने सर।
Yes, Praveen, you start, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, all. Today's VCM on Union Budget 2022 is organized by the WIRC of ICI and hosted by Aurangabad branch of WIRC of ICI jointly with Ahmednagar branch, Akola branch, Jalgaon, Solapur, Amravati and Nanded branch. Now, I welcome WIRC Chairman CA Manish Gadia sir, WIRC Vice Chairperson CA Drishti Madam, WIRC Secretary CA Arpit Kabra sir, and WIRC Treasurer CA Jayesh Kala sir. Now I request WIRC Chairman Manish Gadia sir to have his welcome address.
Before that, along with me, CA Arpit Kabra, Secretary WIRC is here. I request him to share his thought for a minute.
Hello everyone, good afternoon, and I think congratulations to all the branches. Year round of activities and super duper activities. Each one of us contributed so well. This budget I think has been really a forward-looking budget, just as we as a profession have now to evolve in terms of looking beyond just tax rates and looking beyond just compliance and deadlines. I think this budget is symbolic in that sense to tell us that as chartered accountants, as an evolving profession, let's look at ideas, let's look at some bigger pictures in terms of how can we really value add. And I think use of words have been really the key in this entire budget. So I think it's good that we all have to start looking at shaping ourselves in these times. Amrit Kal is a wonderful concept that has been given. So India at 100. So I think जो अभी $20 trillion और जो भी $1 trillion economies थी 2020 की और वो सब वो cancel हो गया. अभी it is now we are moving to Amrit Kal, India at 100. आजादी का महोत्सव 75 चल रहा है and now at 100. So I think it's all about looking at a bigger picture, a wide picture, and we should focus on that. Of course, we have wonderful speakers today. I must congratulate all the branches for arranging this very informative session and an in-time session. And with wonderful speakers today, it would be a great learning. Wish you all a great learning. And for newer and newer perspectives, WIRC is always around. So look forward to interact with you soon. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. And I should say that this union budget, what program we are organizing is actually a rainbow, where the 7 branches of WIRC came together to host this mega event, that is Aurangabad, Ahmednagar, Akola, Amravati, Jalgaon, Solapur and Nanded. So I can say कि ये 7 सुर हैं WIRC के जो एक साथ में चल रहे हैं. So it's really great that 7 branches came together. This budget is really a far-reaching, or I should say a long-term budget, what has been given by Nirmala Sitharaman. That is her 4th budget. And the more focus has been given on infrastructure, employment. That shows that if infrastructure is there, good infrastructure, so in long run, the economy will be good. So I will not go into the direct tax aspect or indirect tax aspect because the speaker is there to cover Ravi Gupta ji is there for direct tax, and Raghu Raman sir is covering indirect tax. So I'm not going into that. But budget seems to be good. Not much tinkering has been done as far as the income tax rate. Other things has been done, which is expected also. So it's really good. And my compliment and best wishes to all the 7 branches for doing program together. Thank you.
Now
Over to you, Praveen.
today's speaker, CA Ravi Gupta sir. Participant, there is last minute change, as the speaker was CA Girish Ahuja sir. Due to his brother's health issue, emergency issue, he is not able to join the seminar, and the Ravi Gupta sir will take this seminar. So now I request Aurangabad Mayor Pankaj Soni to have his opening remarks.
Good afternoon, everybody. As rightly pointed out by CA Manish sir, that we are Rainbow 7 branches in the sky of this WIRC, and it's a high sky. And I congratulate all the 35 branches of WIRC and the team WIRC for getting awarded at national level for both Students Association and for the region. So congratulations to you, sir. Going forward, firstly, I would like to categorically mention here, Manish sir, जितना टाइम पहले बजट बनाना या उसके ऊपर इन्होंने काम चालू किया होगा फाइनेंस मिनिस्ट्री ने, लगभग उतना टाइम या शायद उससे पहले से योगेश ने इस बजट सेमिनार के लिए तैयारी चालू कर दी थी, एंड ही हैड टॉक टू द स्पीकर्स, सो ही वाज वेरी advanced in planning this, and that is how we have got a good success in getting Girish Ahuja sir, because we all know he is always occupied, though today unfortunately because of an unforeseen incident he is not here, but I really congratulate CA Yogesh Agrawal, Vice Chairman Aurangabad branch, in planning this and bringing all the branches on this platform. And of course, on behalf of Yogesh, I thank Prasad Bhandari for that. Before we go towards the budget, I wish a very speedy recovery to the patient, brother of CA Girish Ahuja sir. I hope he get well soon. And as already told by Arpit sir, that the budget is more of a forward looking and lesser amendments from tax tax rates and benefits in terms of small benefits in terms of tax that are getting passed on to you. It has a large and a global picture of infrastructure, innovation and other aspects. So we also, as a chartered accountants, when some fraternity, when normal people ask us what has been in the budget, so instead of telling nahi kuch khas amendment nahi aaya, we should tell that these are the aspects how the government is thinking and how they want to, they are looking way forward, because then as a person from a technical background of finance, we have that acumen more to understand what they want, and we can communicate it to the society in a better manner. So that is all about my opening remarks, and over to you, Praveen.
Yeah, Pankaj, you have correctly said that Yogesh and all the branches have taken very good efforts, and start of this year, this program with timely manner is really appreciable thing. जैसे अर्पित सर ने भी बताया कि this अमृत काल, the start of अमृत काल, so we'll get to know कि अमृत काल का start कैसे हो रहा है. CA रवि गुप्ता सर and रघु रामन सर हमें बताएंगे ही. Now I request CA Yogesh Agrawal to give the brief introduction of CA Ravi Gupta sir.
Thank you, Praveen. Today, because of some family issues, Girish Ahuja sir could not join. So Dr. Ravi Gupta sir is here to give discourse on this direct tax amendments. Dr. Ravi Gupta, sir, did his graduation and post-graduation from Sri Ram College of Commerce. Thereafter, he did LLB from Delhi University, and MBA from Faculty of Management Studies, Delhi. He has been awarded a PhD degree in International Finance by the Delhi University. He is a faculty member at Sri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi University, and also has vast practical experience in handling tax matters of trade and industry. He has been a visiting faculty member at the Indian Law Institute, the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, MFC, South Campus, Delhi University, MDI, and various other management institutes. Dr. Ravi Gupta, along with Girish Ahuja sir, is one of the renowned writers in the field of finance, especially in the area of direct taxation for CA final, CA IPCC exams. Ravi sir has written a number of excellent books in the area of DT taxation. This is useful for CA final and CA IPCC exams. With this short introduction, I would like to show the association of Girish Ahuja sir and Ravi Gupta sir by this book. This is Dr. Girish Ahuja and Dr. Ravi Gupta. With this short introduction, I like to request Ravi Gupta sir to take the charge of the session. Please, sir.
योगेश भाई, आई थिंक आपके पीछे जितने बुक्स है उसमें से आधे से ज्यादा रवि गुप्ता सर और आहूजा सर गुप्ता और आहूजा सर के हैं.
Yes, that is reality.
Now it is there.
Yeah.
Participant, we will have a question answer session after each completion of each session. So Ravi Gupta sir का जैसे ही session खत्म होगा, we will have a question answer on the direct taxes.
But
Over
before
to you,
that,
Ravi sir.
but before that, Ravi Gupta ji is speak. We have with us C. Avinash Gupta, Chairman of NIRC, and I welcome Avinash Gupta ji and congratulate him for getting second best region award. So I want Avinash ji to speak for a minute and guide the region. Over to you, Avinash ji.
Thank you. Thank you, Manish Bhai. Manish Bhai is always there to guide us and motivate us. And the real energy behind Manish ji is sitting behind him right away. Arpit ji, the secretary of WIRC, so always smiling and working. So now I know that why WIRC is always getting the best region award, because a lot of energy is there. Respected office bearers of 7 branches of WIRC. So I am here for the entire session with Dr. Ravi Gupta ji. Though Ahuja ji has to leave urgently in between the session. So we are having a session in the morning with the Revenue Secretary and the Chairman CBDT in NIRC. So that's why we are here. So I think let Ravi ji will start the session, and then whenever I want, whenever he want or whenever I want to, we will enter in between.
ठीक है विनाश.
Thank you, Avinash sir. Now I request Ravi sir to start his.
Thank you. And at the outset, let me congratulate Team WIRC for organizing this function today. The Chairman, the Secretary, WIRC, thank you for unexpectedly giving me this opportunity today. A brief correction I may make in my biodata that was read. I think it was a little older version that you could manage. I am not a chartered accountant as was described. Although I am a council member of the institute, but I am a government nominee on the institute's council. I am practicing as an advocate. Just like all of us, I am a great fan, a student of Dr. Girish Ahuja. मेरे साथ एक एडवांटेज ये है कि आप लोग उनको कभी कभी मिलते हैं, मैं उनको सुबह शाम सारा दिन मिलता हूँ. We share the same office. So that advantage I have over you. Otherwise, we are in the same boat. We are all students of Dr. Girish Ahuja. Today, as you all expected, you would have heard Dr. Girish Ahuja ji, and you were all eagerly waiting to hear him. अब जैसे circumstances बताए गए, he had to leave. So therefore, he gave the task to us. So I and Avinash will try to fill up the gap wherever possible. Before I start, एक छोटी सी story बता दूं. एक substitute speaker की क्या problem होती है. And to substitute a speaker like Dr. Girish Ahuja ji is not an easy task. एक आपने साइंटिस्ट का एक नाम सुना होगा, आइंस्टाइन के नाम से एक बहुत पॉपुलर साइंटिस्ट थे। अब उन्होंने कुछ रिसर्च करी थी और वो रिसर्च के बारे में कई जगह जाके लेक्चर दिया करते थे, और वो रिसर्च उन्होंने ही करी थी, उन्हीं को उसके बारे में पता था। तो जहां भी वो जाते थे, उनका एक ड्राइवर था, पुराना आदमी उनका, तो उसको भी साथ लेके जाते थे। कई बार गर्मी होती थी तो वो उसको कहते थे भाई तू भी आके अंदर हॉल में पीछे चुपचाप बैठ जाएगा। अब ड्राइवर थोड़ा समझदार था, पढ़ा लिखा नहीं था पर समझदार था। वो सुनता रहा, 10 बारी 12 बारी सुना, और फिर उनको कहता है एक दिन कि सर आप क्या यही बोलते रहते हो, ये तो मैं भी बोल सकता हूँ। तो 10 बारी 12 उसने लेक्चर सुन लिया। तो आइंस्टाइन साहब एक बार थके हुए थे, उन्होंने कहा यार तो ऐसा कर, मेरा कोट पहन ले, मुझे कौन जानता है, तू ही जाके लेक्चर दे। तो अब उनका ड्राइवर गया और उसे फटाफट फर्स्ट क्लास लेक्चर दे दिया। 12 बारी सुन चुका था, तो सेम लेक्चर ही डिलीवर्ड। अब लोगों को क्या पता कि आइंस्टाइन साहब कौन है, बड़ा अप्रिशिएट करा। अब जब क्वेश्चन आंसर का टाइम आया, तो जो नॉर्मल क्वेश्चंस थे वो तो उसने आंसर कर दिए। अब जब गूगलीज आनी शुरू हुई, जब मुश्किल क्वेश्चंस आने शुरू हुए, अब वो नहीं कर पाया आंसर, बट वो चालाक आदमी था। वो कहता यार ये तो बड़े सिंपल क्वेश्चंस है, ये तो मेरा ड्राइवर आंसर करेगा। तो आइंस्टाइन साहब पीछे बैठे थे, वो आके उन्होंने मन संभाला और उन्होंने आके आंसर देने शुरू करे। तो फ्रेंड्स, अब हमारे आइंस्टाइन साहब तो आज है नहीं हमारे बीच में, तो इसलिए जो कुछ भी है हमें आपस में ही कुछ बातचीत करके आज का प्रोग्राम चलाना पड़ेगा। तो फ्रेंड्स, कमिंग टू दी प्रोविजंस ऑफ द डायरेक्ट टैक्सेस, चेंजेस तो बहुत सारे चेंजेस हैं, प्रोसीजरल चेंजेस भी हैं, इनसिग्निफिकेंट है, सिग्निफिकेंट चेंजेस भी हैं। तो वी विल ट्राई टू कंसंट्रेट ऑन दोज प्रोविजंस जो हमें रोज की प्रैक्टिस में, जो हमें रोज में इफेक्ट करेंगे। स्टार्टिंग विद द डेफिनेशन, सेक्शन 2 में इनकम टैक्स एक्ट में डेफिनेशंस दी होती हैं। दो मेजर चेंजेस एंड डेफिनेशंस में, एक सेक्शन 242C में डेफिनेशन दी गई है स्लम्प सेल। लास्ट ईयर बजट में इन्होंने स्लम्प सेल के ऊपर काफी सारी अमेंडमेंट की, और उसमें इन्होंने स्लम्प सेल की जगह कंसेप्ट कर दिया दैट इट कैन बी ट्रांसफर बाय एनी मींस, नॉट ओनली सेल, इट कैन बी ट्रांसफर बाय एनी मींस, और उसकी कंसिडरेशन प्राइस भी डिटरमिन करने के लिए बताया गया। बट उसमें लास्ट में डेफिनेशन में जाकर फिर वर्ड इन्होंने यूज कर दिया सेल, तो वो गलती रह गई थी। इट शुड नॉट बी सेल, इट शुड हैव बीन ट्रांसफर। तो वो एक अमेंडमेंट इस बारी स्लम्प सेल की डेफिनेशन में कर। सो नाउ स्लम्प सेल वी शुड अंडरस्टैंड इज नॉट ओनली अ सेल ऑफ एन अंडरटेकिंग, इट इज ट्रांसफर ऑफ एन अंडरटेकिंग बाय एनी मींस। सेल कुड बी वन ऑफ देम। तो ये डेफिनेशन थी सेक्शन 242C में। उसके बाद डेफिनेशन एक नई इंसर्ट करी गई 247A क्लॉज में, जहां हमने डिफाइन करा व्हाट इज ए वर्चुअल डिजिटल एसेट। अब इस बजट में आपने सुना होगा द फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर हैज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड द टैक्सेशन ऑफ क्रिप्टो एसेट्स, जिसको हम नॉर्मली क्रिप्टो करेंसी के फॉर्म में जानते हैं। और मुझे पता नहीं कि हम में से कितने लोग क्रिप्टो करेंसी के बारे में भी जानते हैं, नहीं जानते हैं, उसमें डील करते हैं, नहीं करते हैं। बट क्रिप्टो करेंसी वॉज ए मैटर ऑफ ग्रेट कंटेंशन। हमारी कंट्री में अभी इसके लिए कोई रेगुलेटरी फ्रेमवर्क भी डिफाइंड नहीं है। वी डू नॉट नो वेदर डीलिंग इन क्रिप्टो करेंसी, स्टोरिंग ऑफ क्रिप्टो करेंसी, वेदर इट इज अ लीगल ट्रांजैक्शन, इट इज नॉट ए लीगल ट्रांजैक्शन। पर गवर्नमेंट ने कहा उसके ऊपर टैक्स तो हम लगाएंगे। तो इन दिस बजट the government has imposed a tax of 30% on the profit of the crypto assets. अब उसको डिफाइन करना जरूरी था, what are crypto assets, तो इसलिए उसकी डेफिनेशन 247A में दी as to what is a virtual digital asset। अब डिफाइन करा गया उसको, बहुत एग्जॉस्टिव डेफिनेशन दी है, बड़ी मुश्किल डेफिनेशन है। वो कहते हैं virtual digital asset means any information, code number, token generated through cryptographic means or otherwise। और इसमें बहुत सारी चीजें उन्होंने कहा कि ये भी इंक्लूड होगा, ये भी इंक्लूड होगा। अब इसको कंसेप्ट को समझने के लिए जिसको क्रिप्टो की नॉलेज होगी वही इसको समझ पाएगा। बट प्राइमरली स्पीकिंग, अगर हम कहें कि क्रिप्टो एसेट्स मेजर पोर्शन जिसमें क्रिप्टो करेंसीज होता है, वो सारी चीजें इसमें इंक्लूडेड है। इसकी टैक्सेबिलिटी के लिए नया सेक्शन दिया 115 BBH, जिसमें इसको हमने स्पेशल रेट ऑफ टैक्स पे कर दिया 30%। इसकी इनकम कंप्यूट करने में we will not allow deduction for any sort of expenses excepting the cost of that asset. Yani selling price minus the cost will be the income. On that income, you have to pay 30% tax. दो प्रोविजन इसमें साथ में और भी इंक्लूड कर दिए। ये तो हुआ if you transfer it for a consideration. There could be circumstances where you transfer a crypto asset without consideration by way of a gift. तो फिर सेक्शन 56(2)(10) में इसको कवर करने के लिए हमने एसेट्स की डेफिनेशन जो 56(2)(10) में आती है उसको भी थोड़ा सा चेंज कर दिया। 56(2)(10) is applicable where a person receives any sum in cash, immovable property or movable assets. अब उधर एसेट्स की डेफिनेशन दी गई थी एज डिफाइंड अंडर 56(2)(7), जिसमें हमने इंक्लूड करा हुआ है ज्वेलरी, बुलियन, पेंटिंग्स, स्कल्पचर्स, वर्क ऑफ एनी आर्ट एक्सेट्रा। अब उसमें हमने कर दिया डेफिनेशन चेंज करके, इसके अलावा वी विल इंक्लूड वर्चुअल डिजिटल एसेट्स। यानी अगर कोई वर्चुअल डिजिटल एसेट भी गिफ्ट करता है तो 56(2)(10) अट्रैक्ट हो जाएगा। बाकी प्रोविजन 56(2)(10) के सेम है। यानी इफ यू गिफ्टेड टू अ रिलेटिव तो टैक्स नहीं लगेगा, इफ यू गिफ्टेड टू अ नॉन रिलेटिव देन इट बिकम्स टैक्सेबल इन द हैंड्स ऑफ द रिसिपिएंट। 56(2)(10) में उसको टैक्स करेगा। एक प्रोविजन इसी के साथ इसी के ऊपर इस ट्रांजैक्शन पे टीडीएस का भी डाल दिया। 194S प्रोविजन डाल दिया that in this case the person who is giving the consideration will deduct TDS of 1% of the value of the transaction. तो ये दो तीन चीजें इसमें आई हैं। 194S के ऊपर अविनाश, would you like to clarify certain points?
Yes. As far as this 194S is concerned, so they said any person who is responsible for making this payment for at the time of transfer of this digital virtual digital assets, then he is under an obligation to withhold the tax at the rate of 1%. But they said that when this tax is not liable, when he is not liable to withhold this tax, they said if there is a person who is a specified person and that specified person is transferring the is paying the consideration and that consideration does not exceed 50,000 rupees, then there is no need to deduct the tax. If the person is not the specified person, then in that case, if the value does not exceed 10,000 rupees, then he is not liable to withhold any tax. Meaning thereby, agar main specified person hu and I am the buyer of this digital assets, this virtual assets, and I am making payment to anybody, and that payment is up to 50,000 rupees, then there is no requirement of withholding any tax. But if I am a person which is not a specified person, then I am liable to withhold tax at the rate of 1% on an amount which exceeds 10,000 rupees. So up to 10,000, no tax to be deducted. But if it exceeds 10,000, then TDS has to be deducted at 1%. Now the question comes, who is a specified person? The specified person, they define the definition that any person who is an individual or HUF doing a business, any individual HUF doing a business whose turnover does not exceed 1 crore rupees, individual HUF doing a profession whose turnover does not exceed 50 lakh rupees, this is a specified person, or any other individual or HUF who are not doing any business. So अगर मैं इंडिविजुअल और HUF हूं, मेरी टर्नओवर 1 करोड़ से कम है, मेरी प्रोफेशन की टर्नओवर 50 लाख से कम है, या मैं बिजनेस ही नहीं कर रहा, तो देन इन दैट केस आई एम कॉल्ड एज अ स्पेसिफाइड पर्सन और मेरी लिमिट कितनी हो गई? 50,000 हो गई. In all other cases means I am a firm, I am a company, I am an individual or HUF having a turnover exceeding 1 crore or 50 lakh from profession. In all these cases, the limit to deduct not to deduct taxes 10,000 only. Then they have also introduced one more provision along with that. They said for deducting tax and depositing it to the government, you are not required to take a 10 number. जैसे हम rent की payment करते हैं, जैसे हम 194 IA में property की payment करते हैं, in that fashion only we can withhold the tax and deposit it to the credit of the government. So this is 194S.
Thank you, Vinash. So this was the provisions which were inserted with regard to the virtual digital assets, that is the cryptocurrency. To summarize, first of all, it becomes taxable at the rate of 30%, covered under section 56 to 10 also, and with the provision of withholding tax of 1% of the transaction. Then friends, there are some amendments in section 10, some clauses of section 10, 10(8), 8A, 8B, 9, which had become redundant. These have been omitted. I don't think we need to discuss those in detail. Major amendment in section 14A. 14A, as you know, deals with expenditure relating to exempt income. And the provision says that if you incur an expenditure to earn an exempt income, that expenditure will not be allowed as a draft. We also have Rule 8D, which specifies as to how to calculate this value. 14A has been with us for so many years now. There has been a lot of controversy, a lot of judgments on section 14A. Board has also issued a circular. The main contention was that what should be the position in a year where an assessee does not earn any exempt income, but does incur expenditure. So I have made investment. Earlier, dividend used to be exempt. I used to make investment in shares. I'm paying interest on the borrowing. I'm not getting any dividend. So then the court decision said that if you do not have an exempt income, 14A is not attractive. In fact, that was not the intention of the legislation. When you have made investment, you are incurring an expenditure for the purpose of earning an exempt income, whether you earn it or not. That expenditure should be disallowed. So that position has been clarified in the amendment made in section 14A this year. So henceforth, from assessment year 22-23 onwards, even if you do not earn any exempt income, expenditure incurred in that regard will be disallowed under section 14A. That position has been clarified. Avinash, if you want to add anything, you can.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Then coming to section 17(2), which deals with perquisites. Salary के केस में और कोई amendments नहीं हुई हैं इस साल में. कोई relief जो salary वालों को expected था, ऐसा कोई relief मिला नहीं है. Individuals के केस में सिर्फ एक benefit दिया गया है, which is in relation to surcharge. Surcharge जो अभी तक हमें लगता है, that depends upon the slab and can go up to 37% also. तो जहां आपकी इनकम 5 करोड़ से ऊपर हो जाती है तो आपका सरचार्ज 37% तक चल जाता है. However, there was a cap on the surcharge in case of long-term capital gain and short-term capital gain on listed shares. 111A, 112A में जो टैक्स होता है उसके ऊपर 15% से ज्यादा सरचार्ज नहीं लगता. ऐसे डिविडेंड के ऊपर भी कैप है. बट दूसरे कैपिटल एसेट्स पे कोई सरचार्ज की लिमिटेशन नहीं थी. That means if I sell a property and I earn a long-term capital gain of maybe 5 crore rupees, 7 crore rupees, I could have landed up paying surcharge of 37%. तो इस provision में वो beneficial provision दिया गया that in these cases also, whatever be the nature of the capital gain, उसके ऊपर there will be a cap of 15% surcharge. तो ये एक individuals को benefit मिला है. अब हम वापस आते हैं सेक्शन 17(2) की मैं बात कर रहा था. डेफिनेशन ऑफ परक्विजिट में कोविड के टाइम पर where the employer may have incurred any expenditure on the treatment of COVID-19 for the employee or his family members. So under normal circumstances, this could have been treated as a perquisite. पर जिस तरीके से medical reimbursement, medical treatment in hospitals, that has been exempted, उसी तरीके से इस प्रोविजन में 17(2) में एक प्रोवाइजो डालकर कोविड के एक्सपेंसेस जितने भी इनकर करे एम्प्लॉयर में, those have been exempted from tax. So that will not be treated as a taxable perquisite. इसके लिए प्रेस नोट भी एक आया था पहले
25 जून को
25 जून को कि these expenses will not be taxable. So whatever expenses the employer has incurred will not be treated as a perquisite. वो इस amendment में clarify कर दिया. Correspondingly, इसी provision को 56(2)(10) में भी डाल दिया. Supposing any person other than the employer has incurred these expenses. जैसे अविनाश जी ने कोविड के टाइम पे बहुत सारी रिलीफ एक्टिविटीज करी. इन्होंने काफी सारे बेनिफिट्स जनरल पब्लिक के लिए दिए, फूड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन करा, लोगों को वैक्सीनेशन भी कराई, लोगों को जो भी जरूरत थी पीपी किट्स वगैरह दिए, ऐसे बहुत सारी इन्होंने वेलफेयर मेजर्स करे. तो जो रिसिपिएंट था उसके हाथ में ये गिफ्ट की तरह ट्रीट हो सकता है. तो वहां पर भी 56(2)(10) में भी प्रोविजन डाल दिया, दिस विल नॉट बी ट्रीटेड एज ए टैक्सेबल गिफ्ट. एक और प्रोविजन इसमें डाला कि if you receive any amount towards compensation on the death of a person due to COVID, तो वो भी 56(2)(10) में कवर हो सकता था कि this could have been taxed, but we have granted exemption up to rupees 1 lakh, up to rupees 10 lakhs, up to rupees 10 lakhs an exemption has been granted. It will not be treated as your income. अब 10 लाख से ऊपर अगर 11 लाख मिला है, so then controversy is whether 1 lakh will be taxable or the entire 11 lakhs is taxable. But I think the language says कि उस केस में अगर 10 लाख से ऊपर कुछ भी मिलेगा तो पूरा अमाउंट टैक्सेबल हो जाएगा.
and employer there is no limit.
In case of employer there is no limit. तो ये 56(2)(10) में है सर.
Yes.
तो ये जो दो कोविड रिलेटेड जो बेनिफिशियल प्रोविजंस आए थे ये हमने इसमें डिस्कस करे. बिजनेस इनकम के रिलेशन में 2-3 क्लैरिफिकेटरी नेचर की है अमेंडमेंट्स. दीज आर बेसिकली टू अवॉइड लिटिगेशन, टू क्लैरिफाई द मैटर्स. एक सेक्शन 40A(2)(I, दिस डील्स 40A आपको पता है टॉक्स अबाउट सर्टेन एक्सपेंसेस व्हिच आर नॉट टू बी अलाउड एज डिडक्शन. 40A(2)(I कहता है एनी टैक्स पेड will not be allowed as a deduction. अब इसमें कुछ कोर्ट की डिसीजन आ गई, जयपुर हाई कोर्ट की और एक और हाई कोर्ट की भी, जहां पर उन्होंने कहा कि सेस दैट वी पे, द हेल्थ एंड एजुकेशन सेस जो आजकल 4% हम पे करते हैं, इफ यू पे दैट इट इज नॉट इन द नेचर ऑफ ए टैक्स, इट इज ए सेस, देयरफॉर इट कैन बी क्लेम्ड एज अ बिजनेस एक्सपेंडिचर. अब इसके ऊपर सुप्रीम कोर्ट की भी एक जजमेंट थी पहले से जहां उन्होंने ये इस बात को क्लैरिफाई करा था कि सेस इज आल्सो ए पार्ट ऑफ ए टैक्स. तो उस जजमेंट को बेस मानकर इस साल में अमेंडमेंट करी गई, क्लैरिफिकेटरी अमेंडमेंट है व्हिच हैज क्लैरिफाइड दैट सेस इज आल्सो इन द नेचर ऑफ ए टैक्स. तो नाउ दैट कंट्रोवर्सी इज रिजॉल्व्ड. नाउ व्हाटएवर सेस यू पे, 4% सेस, you cannot claim deduction on that account. ठीक है, that is to be treated as a tax paid. इसी तरीके से एक और क्लैरिफिकेशन है सेक्शन एक्सप्लेनेशन टू सेक्शन 37(1). ये एक्सप्लेनेशन कहती है that any expenditure which is unlawful, which is unethical, which is illegal will not be allowed as a deduction. यानी if I give a bribe, right? If बहुत सारी मेडिकल कंपनीज वर गिविंग इंसेंटिव्स टू द डॉक्टर्स टू प्रमोट देयर प्रोडक्ट्स, तो इसके ऊपर मेडिकल काउंसिल का भी सर्कुलर है दैट दिस इज एन अनएथिकल प्रैक्टिस. कोर्ट्स ने भी कहा दैट दिस इज इन द नेचर ऑफ एन अनएथिकल पेमेंट, सो इट शुड नॉट बी अलाउड एज अ डिडक्शन. अब 37(1) में कुछ कंट्रोवर्सीज फिर अराइज होनी शुरू हुई कि शुड दिस बी इलीगल और अनलॉफुल इन इंडिया, या बाहर की पेमेंट्स भी इसमें कवर हो सकती हैं. अब लोगों ने कहा कि अगर हमने बाहर कोई पेमेंट करी है, इट मे बी अनलॉफुल इन दैट कंट्री, इट इज नॉट इलीगल इन इंडिया, सो व्हाई शुड एक्सप्लेनेशन टू सेक्शन 37(1) बी इन्वोक्ड इन दैट केस. कुछ केस ऐसे भी सामने आए जहां मेडिकल कंपनी स्टार्टेड मेकिंग पेमेंट्स ऑफ इंसेंटिव्स टू द हॉस्पिटल्स. अब हॉस्पिटल्स आर नॉट रेगुलेटेड बाय द मेडिकल काउंसिल, डॉक्टर्स आर, तो उसके ऊपर भी कुछ जजमेंट ये कहने लगी कि हॉस्पिटल्स की पेमेंट भी इसमें कवर नहीं होगी. So in order to clarify that aspect, explanation 37(1) में ये amendment की गई, and now they have listed that whether the expenses in India or abroad, it is unethical, it is immoral, all sorts of these activities will not be allowed as a deduction.
Compounding fees is also now not allowed. So all kind of compounding fee paid for contravention of law. So all ROC compounding fee paid by person, even GST late filing returns, all compounding fees for FEMA and other laws, even in case of transport, whatever fee the challan is being paid by the transporter. So all these are now covered under this explanation, and these expenditure will be disallowed under section 37.
Friends, then coming to the next amendment regarding section 43B. 43B, as you know, provides that some expenses which are incurred are to be allowed as a deduction only on payment basis. So even if the assessee is following the accrual system of accounting, but some specified expenses under 43B will be allowed as a deduction only when the actual amount is paid. One of the expenses covered here is interest payment. And interest to banks, interest to financial institutions is allowed as a deduction only if I have actually paid that amount during the year or I paid by the date of filing the return. अब इसमें भी कुछ controversy इस बात की हुई कि supposing there is a liability or need to pay the interest has been accumulated, but subsequently I convert that interest payment into a debenture. Now the assessees were claiming that when I convert the interest into debenture, I have discharged my obligation to pay the interest. So therefore, under section 43B, it should be allowed as a deduction. Now it has been clarified that conversion of interest payments into debentures will not be allowed as a deduction. Slump sale की definition हमने कर लिया. 17(2) we have done. Then next amendment I would like to mention is about section 68. 68, as you know, deals with unexplained credits. If any sum is found credited in the books of accounts of the assessee offers no explanation, or the explanation offered by him is not found to be satisfactory, then it is treated as an undisclosed income. Any income under section 68 is taxed under 115 BBE at a rate of 60% tax plus 25% surcharge plus. अब इसमें एक प्रोवाइजो कुछ साल पहले ऐड किया गया था, स्पेशली इन केस ऑफ कंपनीज ओनली, क्लोजली हेल्ड कंपनीज के केसेस में, that if there is any sum found credited on account of share application money, on account of share money, on account of share premium, then you have to explain to the assessing officer, satisfy him about the source of the investment, and one step further, the source of the source also has to be explained. So if the assessing officer is satisfied about your source and further the source of the source, then only it will not be treated as unexplained. Right? If I have taken share application money from Avinash ji, I have to explain where did Avinash get the money. Not only that, I have to explain first of all that I got the money from Avinash, and then I have to also explain where did he get the money from. So there was a double burden on the assessee. अब इसके ऊपर again some controversies arose कि whether this proviso will be applicable to loans and advances also or not. Because the provision, the wordings used in that proviso was share money, share application money, share premium money, although they had used the expression or any other amount of similar nature. तो उसमें interpretational issues आ रहे थे. Some courts ने, some tribunals ने कहा कि loans and advances पे ये proviso नहीं लगेगा. So we have clarified in this amendment that this proviso will be applicable to a closely held company in respect of all types of share money as well as loans and advances which the company has obtained during the previous year. सेक्शन 79A में एक अगेन ये मैंने जैसे बताया आपको बहुत सारे अमेंडमेंट्स जो हैं दीज आर क्लैरिफिकेटरी इन नेचर, जिसमें भी डिस्प्यूट्स चल रहे थे, वी हैड जुडिशियल डिसीजंस ऑन बोथ साइड्स, दे हैव ट्राइड टू क्लैरिफाई दोस इश्यूज. अब 79A सेक्शन जो इंसर्ट करा उसमें सिर्फ एक क्लैरिफिकेशन करी इन्होंने कि अगर कोई सर्च या सर्वे होती है एंड ड्यूरिंग द सर्च एंड सर्वे certain assets are found, certain undisclosed inventory is found, certain cash is found, and I have brought forward losses or current year losses, can I set off those losses against this undisclosed income? Some court decisions have said that whatever is found, if it is generated through the business, should be taxed as business income. If it was to be taxed as business income, I could have claimed the set off of the losses. But again, that was not the intention. The policy of the government to prevent evasion of taxes clearly said that whatever is found during course of search and survey, that should be treated as undisclosed. तो अब इस प्रोविजन को 79A इंसर्ट करके क्लैरिफाई कर दिया that whatever undisclosed income, undisclosed assets are found during the course of search and survey, you cannot offset any loss against such income which is found during the undisclosed income which is found during search or survey. ठीक है अविनाश जी?
Yes, sir.
80CC में अमेंडमेंट 80CC में है. 80CC as you know deals with the employer's contribution to the national pension scheme. Employer's contribution to NPS is exempt normally to the extent of 10% of the salary of the employer. In case of central government, the contribution of the central government to the NPS was increased to 14%. Therefore, correspondingly, we amended section 80 CCD to provide exemption up to 14% of the salary for central government employees. The state governments have also increased the contribution of the employer to 14%. 14% of the salary, the state governments also contribute to the NPS. Exemption under 80CCD was only for central government employees, not for the state government employees. So till now, they were being taxed on the balance 4%. 10% was exempt, 4% used to be taxed. So that benefit of 14% exemption has been extended to state government employees also. So that is a relief for the state government employees only. Next amendment in section 80DD. 80DD deals with a deduction in a case where a assessee has any handicapped relative and he has to incur any expenditure for the maintenance, for the treatment of the handicapped relative. इसमें एक provision ये भी है that you could get an insurance on the person where he can get an annuity from the insurance company. Now, this annuity under the old provisions could be availed of only on the death of the person insured, not during his lifetime. But then we had a Supreme Court judgment. There was a judgment delivered by Justice A.K. Sikri, which has also been mentioned in the budget, where they recommended to the government that situations may arise where the annuity may be required by the dependent even during the lifetime of the insured person. So here now it has been clarified that if the insured person has attained the age of 60 years and after 60 years he gets any annuity from the insurance company, even that will be exempt as per the provisions of section 80DD. Then friends, under section 80AC, a tax relief is provided to newly set up startups. They get a total tax exemption for a period of 3 consecutive years. The requirement here was that the new startup should be a company which has been incorporated between 2006 and 2022. Now, because of the COVID situation, because of the pandemic, we have granted 1 more year's extension. So even if the company is established up to 23, it will be considered as a startup and shall be eligible for a deduction of 100% of the profits for 3 consecutive years. Then charitable trust, there are a lot of amendments. I'll come to that a little later. Under section 115 BAB, this section was introduced, I think, 2 years back, where a concessional rate of 15% of tax was provided to companies who are engaged in manufacturing activities. So companies which are into manufacturing activities and which were set up to 31st March 23, they were eligible to pay only 15% tax as against the normal 25, 22, 25 or 30% tax. Again, this has been extended by 1 year. So even if they commence manufacturing up to 31st March 24, they can still avail of the benefit of this lower rate of tax. 115 BBD, which talked about taxation on dividend income, that has lost its importance, so therefore that has been deleted.
No, it is not deleted. That sunset clause is.
Sunset clause aa gaya na wo, haan, sunset clause aa gaya, it will not be applicable now.
So now the foreign dividends are taxed at 30%.
हाँ, ठीक है. Then friends, coming to the next most important amendment regarding the filing of updated returns. अब ये आहूजा सर की जो इन्होंने जब नया बजट बना रहे थे, इनकी भी प्रपोजल में ये बात कही गई थी. And this is in consonance with the policies of the government. देखिए, गवर्नमेंट के पास अब असेसिस के बारे में बहुत डेटा है. About their financial transactions, about their incomes, the government has a lot of data which they collect through various sources, through various information sources which they have developed. Annual information reports, बहुत सारी एजेंसीज को फाइल करनी पड़ती हैं. Through intelligence also, the department has collected a lot of information. अब earlier the policy of the department was they would keep all this data as a secret with them, and they would expect the assessee to disclose the income, and if the income was not disclosed, they would try to catch him. उसके अगेंस्ट 148 के प्रोसीडिंग्स करे, अनडिस्क्लोज इनकम उसकी टैक्स करे, उसका टैक्स रेट ज्यादा लगाए, उस पर इंटरेस्ट लगाए, पेनल्टी लगाए. Now gradually this approach of the department has changed. अब गवर्नमेंट क्या कर रही है? They are now coming forth and saying that this is the information that we have about your income, about your transactions. तो इसलिए उन्होंने इस साल से आपने देखा होगा एक एनुअल इंफॉर्मेशन स्टेटमेंट भी देनी शुरू कर. Besides 26 years, you can also download your annual information statement. अब इस annual information statement में आपको बहुत सारी transactions का जिक्र मिलता है. So now the government is disclosing to you that we have all this information about you, and you should declare your return on the basis of this information also. Now, what would happen in a situation where an assessee has filed a return or inadvertently has not filed the return, skipped the filing the return, but subsequently finds that this was my income, I should have paid the tax on this. अब उसका रिवाइज करने का टाइम बहुत लिमिटेड है. Under the present provisions, you would know that revised return can be filed only up to 31st December. तो आपने नॉर्मल रिटर्न फाइल करने का टाइम 31 जुलाई है, 5 महीने का टाइम मिलता है आपको रिवाइज रिटर्न फाइल करने का. वो टाइम निकल गया तो व्हाट डू यू डू? अंडर द ओल्ड प्रोविजन यू कुड नॉट डू एनीथिंग. ओनली द डिपार्टमेंट कुड इशू ए नोटिस अंडर 148. वो आपके अगेंस्ट प्रोसीडिंग शुरू करेगा. यू फाइल योर रिटर्न, देन डिस्क्लोज दिस इनकम, देन पे द टैक्स ऑन दिस, पे एंड अट्रैक्ट पेनल्टी एक्सेट्रा. तो अब ये प्रोविजन एक बेनिफिशियल प्रोविजन एसएससी के लिए डाला गया that you are allowed now to file a updated return. So अगर कोई ऐसी इनकम है जो आपने अपने रिटर्न में नहीं दिखाई है, maybe because you have not filed the return or you have filed the return but this income has not been disclosed. So within 2 years time आप इस इनकम को डिस्क्लोज कर सकते हैं by filing an updated return. तो आप सारा डेटा एनालाइज कर लीजिए, डिपार्टमेंट ने आपको क्या डेटा दिया, अपने इंफॉर्मेशन को कर लीजिए, आपका कोई कैपिटल गेन था, कोई प्रॉपर्टी बेची थी, उसको आप भूल गए दिखाना, so you can file an updated return. Of course, with updated return can be filed only by paying certain extra tax. अगर एक्स्ट्रा टैक्स नहीं रखेंगे तो कोई भी नॉर्मल रिटर्न ही नहीं फाइल करेगा, तो इसके ऊपर उन्होंने एडिशनल टैक्स की प्रोविजन डाला. If you file the updated return within 1 year, you pay tax of 25%, additional tax of 25%. If you file it after 1 year, before 2 years, you pay additional tax of 50%. Besides the tax, you also have to pay interest. अगर आपकी ओरिजिनल रिटर्न टाइम पर फाइल थी तो 234A का इंटरेस्ट नहीं लगेगा. अगर ओरिजिनल रिटर्न लेट थी तो 234A का इंटरेस्ट लगेगा. बिसाइड्स 234B एंड C वो इंटरेस्ट भी आपके इसमें चार्ज होंगे. तो एडिशनल टैक्स प्लस इंटरेस्ट, इफ यू आर विलिंग टू पे दैट, you can file a belated return. Avinash, you would like to add anything to this?
Yeah. As far as this updated return is concerned, no updated return can be filed if it is a return of loss. So you cannot file a loss return. You cannot file a updated return which will decrease the tax liability as compared to the original return. So आपके ओरिजिनल टैक्स रिटर्न में अगर लायबिलिटी 5 लाख रुपए थी टैक्स लायबिलिटी, and updated return cannot be below that 5 lakh. You cannot file the updated return for claiming losses or for claiming refunds, and you cannot file the updated return for which will enhance the refund. So these are 4 riders. First rider, that you cannot file a loss return, you cannot decrease the tax liability, you cannot claim refund, and you cannot increase the increase the refund. Then they said further, any SSC cannot file an updated return against whom a survey proceeding have already been initiated, a search proceeding have already been initiated, so that if those survey search proceeding is going on for those years, the SSC is debarred from filing the updated return. Further, they says that if any information is there in the possession of the assessing officer, which he have come through exchange of information under section 90A of the Act, which is like Panama Leaks, Panama Papers, HSBC list, or any such information which he have, then also he is debarred from filing this updated return. If any information he have received under the PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, if anything is received under the Black Money Act, Benami Property Act, Foreign Exchange Manipulation Act, etc. So then also these this updated return cannot be filed by the SSC. Now, as sir have just mentioned that if the SSC have filed this updated return within a period of 1 year, means 12 months from the end of the assessment year, he needs to pay 25% as additional tax of the income tax plus interest. Now, how to compute that particular tax? How to compute that additional tax? So for that, they said the procedure is given by incorporating it under 140B. What this says that under 140B, there would be two kind of a situation. Either the person have filed the original return, or the person may not have filed the original return. If the person have not filed the return at all, no return is filed by the person, then what they said, take out all the incomes. So whatever is the income for which he wants to file this updated return within a period of 1 year or 2 years, as the case may be, calculate the tax on that updated return. Deduct all kind of TDS, TCS, advance tax that have been paid by the SSC, by the person. Deduct all kind of a relief available to that SSC. Deduct all kind of a foreign tax credit available to the SSC under section 90, 90A or 91. That is also allowed. Deduct all kind of a MAT credit or AMT credit allowed to the SSC. Whatever is the amount left, that is the tax that he has to pay, plus add 234A, 234B and 234C interest on it. After that, whatever is the amount come, 25% of the amount is to be paid as additional tax. And if it is beyond a period of 1 year, then 50% is to be paid as an additional tax. And along with the return, along with that updated return, the copy of challan has to be submitted. Otherwise, the return filed under section 139(8)(a) is deemed to be a defective return. Now, let's take case 2, that the assessee have filed the return. The assessee may have filed the return within the due date. The assessee may have filed the return which is a belated return, or assessee may have also filed the return either in the due date or belated, and then they subsequently he have revised that return. So the return may be under 139(1), 139(4), or 139(5). And now the assessee wants to update its return. They can do that. Now what he has to, how he has to calculate the tax. On this updated income, he has to compute the tax as per the normal provisions of the law, reduce all the taxes, all the TDS, TCS, relief, self-assessment tax given in the original return. So whatever he have claimed in the original return, you reduce it. Reduce any TDS which is there on the new income which have been included. So for example, with the original return, I have filed for 15 lakhs. Now I came to know that there is another 2 lakh income on interest which I want to offer. So my income becomes 17 lakh. On this 2 lakh, there might be 10% TDS which have already been deducted. So this 20%, 20,000 rupees is the additional TDS. Again, AMT credit and foreign tax credit, etc. Reduce it. Then you have to add 234A. If the original return is a belated return, then 234A from 1st April till the date of filing of return. If the original return is the regular return which is not belated, then no 234A. But yes, add 234B, add 234C. Aggregate of tax plus 234 ABC interest. Then on this additional tax will be 25% if it is within 1 year, and additional tax will be 50% if it is beyond 1 year from the end of the assessment year till 24 months, that is 2 years time that we need to deposit this updated return. So this is the provision which have been incorporated in 139(8)(a), read with section 140B.
Thank you, Avinash. Coming to the next amendment, I would like to now come to the amendment in section 148 and 148A. Well, friends, last year only, the department had revamped the provisions of section 148, introduced section 148A. And as you know, because of this, there was a lot of controversy. There were a lot of writ petitions filed in the high courts against the notices issued under the old provisions. So various high courts, the Rajasthan High Court, the Bombay High Court, the Allahabad High Court, Delhi High Court, all of them have struck down those notices. So we were expecting that government may come out with an amendment so that these notices may be reevaluated. Fortunately, they have not come out with any such amendment. The government has in fact gone to the Supreme Court. That matter is pending with the Supreme Court. Now, last year, the new provisions which were inserted, section 148 and especially 148A, they were very badly drafted. I do not know what was the logic behind introducing them in such a hurry. No notices till date have been issued under those sections, and those sections have now been again revamped. Again, we have a lot of amendments in section 148 and 148. अब 148A was a procedural section. उसमें उन्होंने कहा कि आपको नोटिस इशू करने से पहले अप्रूवल लेनी पड़ेगी, उसके बाद रीजंस रिकॉर्ड करने पड़ेंगे, एसएससी को नोटिस इशू करना पड़ेगा, फिर अप्रूवल लेनी पड़ेगी, फिर एसएससी के रिप्लाई को कंसीडर करके, and you will have to again get the approval of the higher authority, then only you can issue notice under section 148. अब इसमें 3 स्टेजेस पे हायर अथॉरिटीज की अप्रूवल की जरूरत थी. एक स्टेज को इन्होंने इस बार हटा दिया. अब इसमें कर दिया that no approval shall be required at the time of issue of the initial notice. तो अगर ITO के पास कोई इंफॉर्मेशन है that some income has escaped assessment, he can directly issue a show cause to the assessor. और उसके बाद वही प्रोसीजर फॉलो करेंगे। 148 में अब इन्होंने सिर्फ 2 सर्कमस्टांसेस मेंशन करे थे वेयर इनकम कुड बी डीम्ड टू बी एस्केपिंग असेसमेंट। एक तो था एनी इंफॉर्मेशन व्हिच इज ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ एनी इंफॉर्मेशन फ्लैग्ड बाय द वो क्या कहते हैं उसको, रिस्क मैनेजमेंट स्ट्रेटजी,
risk based system.
रिस्क मैनेजमेंट स्ट्रेटजी के अंडर अगर कोई इंफॉर्मेशन फ्लैग ऑफ करी है तो उसके बेसिस पर 148 इशू हो सकता था, या इन द केस ऑफ सर्च एंड सीजर, और ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ objections raised by the CAG. Search के केसेस में ये प्रोविजन करा गया that if a search has been conducted or a survey has been done, then for 3 assessment years the ITO shall be presumed to have information. अब सिर्फ 3 साल के लिए उन्होंने डाला, और 149 में 151 में प्रोविजन कहता है कि आप 10 साल तक के केसेस खोल सकते हैं। अगर 10 साल तक के केसेस खोल सकते हैं, 3 साल की तो आपकी इंफॉर्मेशन डीम्ड हो गई, बाकी 7 साल किस बेस पर खुलेंगे? It is not on the basis of any information flagged, it is not on the basis of any objection from the CAG. तो they were finding it difficult कि कैसे हम केसेस खोल सकते हैं। तो अब जो अमेंडमेंट्स करी है सेक्शन 148 में, एक तो it can be now on the basis of any audit objections, not only CAG, it can be any audit. They have included so many other sources of information. Information may be gathered under section 90-91. ठीक है, फॉरेन के सोर्स पे भी कोई इंफॉर्मेशन आ सकती है। सर्च के केस में 3 साल वाली जो रेफरेंस था उसको डिलीट कर दिया, यानी इन केस ऑफ सर्च दे कैन ऑटोमेटिकली इशू नोटिसेस फॉर 10 इयर्स। जो एक प्रोविजन ये कहता था कि आफ्टर 3 years अप टू 10 years यू कैन इशू नोटिसेस ओनली इफ यू हैव इंफॉर्मेशन दैट एनी इनकम एस्केपिंग असेसमेंट इज मोर देन 50 लाख रुपीस एंड इट इज रिप्रेजेंटेड बाय एन एसेट। अब उसको हटाकर उसमें भी कर दिया इट कुड बी इन द फॉर्म ऑफ एन एसेट, इट कुड बी इन द फॉर्म ऑफ एन एक्सपेंडिचर और एनी अदर फॉर्म, एंट्री, इट कुड बी एनी एंट्री और एनी लोन। तो ये सारे प्रोविजंस इसमें आप 148 में डाल। तो 148 का स्कोप जो पिछले साल इन्होंने बहुत रिस्ट्रिक्ट कर दिया था उसको उतना ही वाइड कर दिया है। सो अभी जो अब नए सेक्शंस के नोटिस आएंगे न्यू सेक्शन 148, 148A में, उसके लिए अब इनके पास वेरी वाइड स्कोप ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ व्हिच नोटिस कैन बी इश्यूड। Avinash, you can add something to it.
Yeah. Now practically what happened is earlier there for issuing notices beyond 3 years, the AO has to satisfy and tell that there is an income exceeding 50 lakh rupees which have escaped assessment, and the same has to be represented through an asset which should be present on the date of issue of the notice. Now the scope has been enlarged. It may be represented by an asset. It may be represented by an expenditure incurred by me. So I may have incurred an expenditure on the marriage of a family member 5 years ago, and according to the AO that more than 50 lakh, maybe 1 crore rupees is being spent by me on that. So even in those cases the notice under 148 can be issued now. There may be an entry in my books or a series of entries is there in my books of accounts. Even in all those cases, if the aggregate amount exceeds 50 lakhs in his opinion, then he can open the cases for past 7 years beyond 3 years. So 3 to 10 years cases can be opened by him.
Thank you, Avinash. Friends, now coming to certain amendments in the TDS provisions. एक दो provisions हम discuss कर चुके हैं। 194S, as I told you, for virtual digital assets has already been discussed. एक amendment करी है section 194IA में। 194IA में, as you would be aware, we deduct tax of 1% of the value of immovable property if that value exceeds rupees 50 lakhs. तो यानी अगर कोई immovable property आप खरीदते हैं, so then the buyer is under an obligation to deduct tax of 1% of the sale consideration. अब section 50C में या section 43CA में हम बात करते हैं stamp duty value, and we have said that if the stamp duty value exceeds the sale consideration, the stamp duty value is deemed to be the sale consideration. TDS में ये provision नहीं था. TDS was to be deducted at the rate of 1% on the actual sale consideration irrespective of the stamp duty. अब 194 IA को amend कर दिया. अब उसमें कर दिया TDS of 1% will be deducted on the actual sale price or stamp duty value, whichever is higher. So if my, let us say, actual sale consideration is 60 lakhs, stamp duty value is 70 lakhs, I will have to deduct tax on 70 lakhs. अब इसमें एक थोड़ी सी प्रॉब्लम जो आएगी, देखिए, we have allowed a leverage of 10%. 50C में भी, 43CA में भी, हम कहते हैं कि if the stamp duty value is up to 110% of the sale consideration, then this actual sale consideration will be deemed to be the sale price. अब इस केस में जो हमने 194 IA में जो अमेंडमेंट करी है, यहां पर ऐसा कोई प्रोविजन नहीं डाला गया. तो सपोजिंग माय एक्चुअल सेल प्राइस इज 50 lakhs or 60 lakhs and my stamp duty value is, let us say, 64 lakhs. तो 50C में तो my sale price will be considered to be 60 lakhs, but TDS will be on 64 lakhs. अब जब TDS 64 lakhs पे कटेगा तो मेरे 26 years में सेल प्राइस 64 lakhs रिफ्लेक्ट होगी. So when I file my return, there will be a mismatch. मैंने सेल प्राइस 60 lakhs दिखाई होगी, 26 years 64 lakhs दिखाएगा. So that will be a practical issue that we'll have to resolve. तो उसका एक corresponding कुछ ना कुछ provision इसमें 194 IA में भी डालना पड़ेगा. Then we have inserted another new section 194S. 194S हमने कर लिया, 194R. 194R भी TDS के लिए नया प्रोविजन कहता है. This is with relation to section 28(6). 28(6) में हम कहते हैं that if during the course of carrying on any business or profession, a person receives any benefit or a perquisite, that is to be treated as his income from business. ठीक है ना. अगर बिजनेस करते हुए, let us say, a person is engaged in marketing, उसकी कंपनी कहती है कि if you attain a certain level of turnover, we will give you a, let us say, a Honda City car. अब अगर वो अचीव कर लेता है वो टारगेट, तो उसको कंपनी से Honda City कार मिल जाती है. This is also to be treated as his income from business. If he is carrying on a business. कोई चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट है इन प्रैक्टिस, उसका क्लाइंट उसको besides the fees also gives him a facility of, let us say, office for which he does not pay any rent. तो ये भी एक फैसिलिटी है. So all these are treated as perquisites. अब इसकी रिपोर्टिंग रिक्वायरमेंट कहीं पर नहीं है, and many of the persons are not paying any tax on this. So they have introduced a provision under section 194R which says that in this case, the person who is providing this facility, he has to deduct tax at the rate of 10%. So 10% उसको TDS काटना है. However, if the benefit of the perquisite has been provided in kind or partly in cash and partly in kind, and the cash portion is not sufficient to deduct tax at 10%, then the person giving that amount or the facility has to ensure that the recipient first pays the tax before this asset is released to him. जैसे लॉटरी के प्रोविजन है उसी तरीके से इसमें भी प्रोविजन डाला. इसमें लिमिटेशन कितनी रखी है? 20,000 रुपए. That if the amount does not exceed 20,000 rupees, तो फिर उसमें TDS की नई प्रोविजन है. Or in case of a person whose turnover is up to rupees 1 crore in a business or from a profession is up to 50 lakh rupees, these persons are not required to deduct TDS under this section of 194S. एक सेक्शन और जो चेंज कराया 206AB and 206 CCA, इसमें you would know that in case a person has not filed his return for the last 2 years, तो उसका टैक्स रेट जो है वो डबल हो जाता है. The deductor will deduct tax at twice the rate. ये 2 साल का प्रोविजन हटाकर 1 साल कर दिया गया. So even if you have not filed the return for 1 year preceding year, then this provision will be attracted. 2 साल को reduce करके 1 साल कर दिया उसमें. बाकी कुछ प्रोसीजरल चीजें हैं जिसमें हमको खास बात करने की नहीं है. Section 263 has been made applicable in case of transfer pricing issues also. The principal commissioner dealing with that transfer pricing issue, he can issue notices under section 263.
170. 170.
आप करा लो.
Okay. So there is a problem in case of business reorganization. So for example, there is company A and company B. Under a business reorganization, company A merged with company B, and there is an assessment proceeding which is going on in case of company A, which is now merged with company B. So what happened in those cases, that the proceedings are generally concluded in the name of company A itself, and the SSC generally takes a ground in the appeal, and there are a lot of judgments in favor of the assessee, whereby it was held that no assessment can be made on a person which is not existent. So on this ground, they have made a new provision here which says that in case of a business reorganization, if an assessment proceeding is going on in the case of a company which is non-existent, then it is deemed to be on the successor company. So that deeming provision is there to overrule the judgment of Supreme Court and other courts which is there. Another welcome amendment has been made in case of mergers and these business reorganizations again. So what they said, that there is a difference between, or there is a time lag between the appointed date and the actual date of order by the NCLT or the appropriate court, and because of that timeline. So for example, I have applied for a merger, and that appointed date of that merger is A, let's say 1st of April 2017. The order might have come in 2018, the order might come in 2019, and in few cases the orders are coming after 3 years. At the time of order, the order comes from the appropriate authority, the appointed date is retrospective only. Then what I have to do is I have to merge my accounts and file a consolidated return. But the time limit for filing this consolidated return or revising my existing return have already been gone. Now there is an issue of the merging entity. There is a TDS amount, there is a self-assessment tax, there is an advance tax which needs to be credited here, and how I will file a combined return in those cases. So there is a very big issue in that. Now this issue has been addressed, and a new provision have been added in this case, whereby they said that in case of a merger or in case of a business reorganization, that the company can file a new return which is called a modified return within 6 months from the date of order by the appropriate authority in the prescribed manner, in the prescribed way. So it's a complete way out. It's a very, very welcome step which have been given under this scheme, whereby this in case of mergers, this provision can be invoked. That is the 170A which have been there. Another problem which have come under the notice of demand in case of IBC cases, insolvency cases. In many of the insolvency cases under the IBC Act itself, the court, the NCLT either may reduce the tax liability of the company under IBC proceeding, or they may have annulled. They have said that there will be no tax liability which can be recoverable from after the IBC proceeding. But under my Income Tax Act, when I go to the assessing officer, they said that I do not have a power under the Income Tax Act whereby I can reduce the demand or I can annul the demand against that company which is under IBC. To overcome that, a beneficial amendment was proposed under section 156A. So there is a new section which have been incorporated under 156A, which empowers the assessing officer to modify my notice of demand under section 156, meaning thereby if a company is under IBC and the court says that there is only 25% demand which is recoverable, or penalty is waived or interest is waived, in all those cases, now the assessing officer can issue me a revised or a modified notice of demand. So that kind of a facility have already been provided under this new regime of 156A. So these are three beneficial provisions which are there, which are proposed in this Finance Bill 2021. One more amendment of under section 263 is also been proposed, whereby the power to reopen or annulling the assessment done by the transfer pricing officer is given to the commissioner of transfer pricing, whereby any transfer pricing or computing the arm's length price is done by a TPO. Now the CIT of transfer pricing can do 263 against the order of the TPO. So that is also a new amendment which have been proposed.
Okay, Avinash. One or two more small points that I would like to bring to your notice. Some amendments again regarding penalties. Penalty, as you know, is imposed under section 271 AA-B, AA-C, 271 AA-D for various types of offenses. In such cases, 271 AA-B says penalty shall be 30% if you disclose it in the return, the undisclosed income, or it shall be 60% if you do not disclose it. Similarly, 271 AA-C provides a penalty of 10% wherever any income has been assessed under section 115 BBE, that is, I have already paid the higher rate of tax. 271 AA-D provides for a penalty where there is a charge of falsification of books of accounts, for bogus billing, etc.
Fake invoicing.
Fake invoicing. So their penalty is imposed under section 271 AA-D. At present, these penalties can be imposed only by the assessing officer. The CIT appeal does not have the power to impose these penalties. However, we do come across cases where there is an enhancement made by the Commissioner of Appeals, and therefore there might be a chance, there might be a case for imposing penalty even by the commissioners. So that lacuna has been removed. Now the commissioners have also been authorized, the Commissioner of Appeals have also been authorized to levy this penalty. Then lastly, I would say that penalty imposed under section 272A, there's a penalty of 1,000 rupees per day for 100 rupees per day for default in furnishing information, right, etc. Small offenses are there where the penalty is 100 rupees per day. This penalty was not being seen as a sufficient deterrent. So therefore, there was a proposal to enhance it. This penalty has been enhanced from 100 rupees to 500 rupees per day, right? Section 272A. Under section 179, there's a small amendment only in the heading of the section. 179 deals with the recovery of tax from a director of a private limited company. Now, the heading inadvertently for long number of years mentioned recovery of tax due from a company in case of liquidation. Whereas if you go through the language of the section, there is no mention about liquidation. So all taxes due from a company, which is a closely held company, can be recovered from the directors unless and until they prove that they were not involved in the day-to-day working or the non-recovery is not due to their negligence. So they have just made that amendment. The word in the event of liquidation has been deleted from the heading. I think this was the main amendments that we had to mention. Some more procedural amendments are there, but I don't think they are very important for us. And if anything is left, anyone has any questions, I think in the question answer session, we can deal with any other amendments which we have skipped. So I think, friends, we can now take up any questions which the participants would have, any clarifications or anything that has been skipped out, any observations from the participants.
Praveen, you are there?
Sir, we have one member, Sudhakar Joshi ji, who has raised his hand.
Yes.
Praveen ji. Praveen bhai, Pankaj bhai, please ask him to unmute. Sudhakar Joshi ji.
सुधाकर जोशी सर, आप अनम्यूट करिए खुद को. I don't know whether he has query or by mistake हाथ raise हुआ.
Okay. Manoj Kabra sir, you have raised your hand. Please unmute yourself.
What are the major amendments regarding to trust?
Okay, yes, we skipped out those amendments. I'm sorry we skipped out those amendments. Yes. Very, very nice that you have mentioned that. See, the assessment and the exemption of the trust are primarily under two separate sections, two separate provisions we have. Although they are very similar, one is under section 1023C and another regime is under section 11, 12, and 13. Now, both these regimes are acting separately, although the provisions are very similar, but there was some mismatches. So this budget has tried to realign both these provisions so that whatever is contained in one set of provisions is there in the other set also. Under section 1023C, we are mainly dealing with 4 subclauses, that is subclause 4, 5, 6, and 6A, which deals with notified charitable institutions, notified religious trusts, universities or educational institutions having gross receipts exceeding 5 crore rupees, or hospitals, medical institutions having receipts more than 5 crore rupees. Now, in all these 4 cases, approval of the competent authority is required to grant an exemption. Now, it has been clarified that in all these cases, the approval shall be granted by the principal commissioner or the commissioner of that particular range. Secondly, it has now been clarified that if these trusts, especially the religious trusts, etc., they receive any amount towards the repair, renovation, etc., of any monuments or any religious places, this shall now be treated as a corporate contribution. And you know that as a corpus donation. And as you know, corpus donations are totally exempt, provided these are used by the trust only for that specific purpose. So now the requirement is that if these trusts receive any amount for a specific purpose, they will have to spend that amount for that purpose only. It is now to be treated as a corpus contribution, and till the time that it has been actually spent, it has to be invested in the modes specified under section 11.5. Secondly, under section 11, there is a provision for accumulation of income under section 11.2. That if I am not able to spend 85% of my income during the previous year, then I have an option of accumulating that income for a period of 5 years. Within 5 years, I should spend that amount for the purposes specified in that notice. For that purpose, I have to file a form number 10 has to be filed before the date of filing the return. And I can accumulate that amount for 5 years. But I have to keep that amount invested in the modes prescribed under 11.5. At present, the provision says that if I do not spend that amount within 5 years, or within 5 years, if I misutilize that amount, or do not keep it invested in 11.5, then this is treated as my income. If I do not use it within 5 years, it is treated by income of the 6th year. Now we have amended that provision. It will be treated as the income of the 5th year itself. We will not wait till the 6th year to tax it. If you do not spend it within 5 years, 5th year, it will be considered to be your income. Regarding this, there was no similar provision in section 1023C. There was no similar provision under section 11.2 under section 23C. So we have now added 3 explanations in section 1023C to provide for accumulation of the income, and similar provisions to 11.2 will be incorporated in 1023C also. So there also you can accumulate for 5 years, invest in 11 modes prescribed under 11.5, within 5 years utilize that amount, otherwise it will be treated as the income of the 5th year. Then under section 12AB, there is a provision to get the accounts of the trust audited if the receipts exceed the amount which is not liable to tax. So therefore, there is a provision for getting the accounts audited. However, there is no provision regarding maintenance of books of account. So this was a mismatch in the provisions, that without books of accounts, where do you get your accounts audited? So now they have prescribed the books which are to be maintained by the trust, both under section 12AB as well as under 1023C. So you will have to maintain prescribed books of accounts and get them audited. So there is a 10th proviso which has been added in section 1023C. As regards withdrawal of the exemption, under section 143, again, where the assessing officer is making an assessment of the trust, he finds that the activities of the trust are not in consonance with the objects. He can refer the matter to the authority who has granted the registration. He can refer that this exemption should not be granted to him, or the approval of the trust should be withdrawn. Right? Now, this authority of the assessing officer was not for revoking the registration. It was only for not granting the exemption to the income of the trust. So this power has not now been given, that the assessing officer, if he comes across the case that the trust is not performing the activities as per the original object, or is performing an activity which is against the provisions of any law, then he can refer the matter to the commissioner, enabling him to withdraw the registration of the trust. So these provisions which were there in section 11 and 12AB, these have been incorporated in section 1023C also, so that now we have both provisions which are parallel to each other. So these were the main amendments in section 1023C and section 11, 12, and 13. Well, another penalty has been imposed here. That is also very important. Under section 271(883), see what happens in case a trust applies any income or uses any asset of the trust for the benefit of any specified person, for the trustee, for the person who has made substantial contribution. If any benefit is given to these persons, then we say that section 13(3) is attracted, and the income of the trust to that extent may not be allowed as an exemption. Now, not only that, a penalty has been imposed, which is equal to 100% of the amount utilized for the benefit of these persons, if it is a one-time offense. If this offense is committed a second time, then the penalty will be double this amount. So 200% of the amount used will be imposable as a penalty under section 271(883). So I think, friends, these were the provisions regarding the charitable trusts.
Okay, sir, I just want to share that we have arranged one unique quiz competition before this budget. The name was "What Lies in the Pitara Union Budget 2022," in which we have asked our members to share their guesses on the different sections कि क्या changes या क्या union budget में आ सकता है. So the winner, I want to announce their name. The winner is CA Pragati Shinkar, and runner-up is CA Pramod Jain. So I request Ravi Gupta sir to kindly congratulate them.
I would like to congratulate both the winners, but more than that, can we have some idea about what were their expectations of the budget and how far have they been met in the union budget this year? So what were their expectations and to what extent have they been fulfilled? If
So
the winners are here, would they like to share with us?
Yes. Is Pragati there?
Or anyone from the selectors who have selected these persons for the award, if they have any knowledge as to what was
Praveen, just a minute. In a minute, I will just let know. Till then, you can take a question.
Okay.
Someone has raised the hand.
Okay.
I'll just let you know. Yeah.
So we have
from Ahmednagar, Nitish Gugre is here. He's having some queries. Nitish.
Sir, like budget added the explanation for disallowance of the cess, and there is specific disallowance for the income tax paid on the income earned. My question is relating to the interest paid on the income tax. So whether it is disallowed or what is the stance of act?
No, interest paid on income tax is also not to be allowed as a deduction. However, interest paid under other laws, for example, interest paid on GST, etc., that the courts have held should be allowed as a deduction. For that purpose, there is no specific amendment in the budget this year. So we are going by the old provisions, the old judicial pronouncements which are existing. Interest on delayed payment of taxes, income tax will not be allowed, but interest on other payments can be allowed as deduction.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Is any other query? Any participant, you can raise your hand. Manoj Kumar Kabra. Yes, you can unmute yourself.
So what is your opinion on the various late fees paid under various acts like GST, income tax nowadays? Allowability as expenditure.
Allowability of the expenditure relating to interest. Late fees.
No, various late fees paid under various acts. Like TDS, like GST, like income tax. Nowadays, instead of penalty, they are calling is late fees everywhere. It is called late fees.
Late fees is in the nature of a penalty. It is just like a compounding fees that you are paying. So that will not be allowed as a deduction. See, there's a difference between interest and a penalty. Interest is compensatory in nature. So therefore, there could be a case for allowing interest that we pay under various other acts. But any other late fees, any other penalty that is paid will not be allowed as deduction. Okay, friends, if we have any other questions, we can
Yes,
take
sir.
it over.
We have Sanjay Patil, sir.
Yes, Sanjay ji.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
Sanjay ji, you can raise your query.
Question is regarding section 194R.
Hmm.
The expenditures that you are calling as a benefits and perquisites.
Hmm.
Will you please define that things? For example, the sales, the manufacturing company gives tours, travels, or gifts, or gold items, or buy of credit note incentives for achieving targeted sales. They are not covered under section 194R.
Yes, all of them are covered.
All of them are
if
covered.
a person during the course of carrying on his business, if he is a commission agent,
yeah,
and the company says if you achieve a certain target, we will give you this gold coin, we will give you this car, we will give you so much cash incentive, we will give you a credit note. All these are incentives.
And if it is a dealer,
tax under section 28.
But if he is a dealer of our company,
exactly same. Dealer is also carrying on his business. So in that case also, besides his commission, whatever benefit he gets will be treated as his income from business under section 28, clause 6. Okay. So then in that case, 194R will be attractive.
Abstracted.
1 second. V. Raghuraman sir has joined. Welcome, Raghuraman sir.
Thank you.
Please continue, sir. Questions. Sandeep sir, please continue with questions.
Hello.
Yes, please.
And sir, if the assessee has not filed the return and he has filed the updated return in within a 1 or 2 years, and if have a refund in that return, whether he can file or not?
Well, that is not allowed. No, you cannot file the updated return only to claim a refund. If there is no additional amount that you are paying, if there is no tax that is being paid, then updated return will not be allowed.
Due to certain reason, we have forget to file the return due to some circumstances. If the assessees fail to file the return,
you will then have to go to the board, seek condemnation and delay in filing refund and claiming the return and claiming the refund. So then you cannot claim the benefit of this provision of the updated return.
Okay, means in case of only tax liability I have, then I will file the updated return.
Yes, this is
not
just
in
like
a refund case.
It is just like section 148. It is for the benefit of the revenue, not for the benefit of the assessee.
Acha. Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay. Friends, we'd like to be excused. I have another seminar which Ahuja sir had scheduled at about 4:45, so I would like to join there. If you have any further queries, I think you can send it by mail. We'll be pleased to respond to that.
Okay, sir.
Sir,
just
one last query. One last.
Yes, yes.
Just a second. Pankaj,
Hello.
Pankaj sir, please unmute V. Raghuraman sir.
Yeah.
Please.
No, let this query happen. Na? Suhas Kulkar.
Yes, sir. So my query is regarding this updated return only. If there was refund in original return and further in the updated return, refund is reduced. So there is tax liability. So whether can we...
Sorry, can you come again? Can you
Reduce
please?
kar rahe hain.
So in original return, there was refund, but now due to some circumstances, refund is reduced.
ते रघुरामन आले त्यांना हे करा.
Okay.
So whether we
Keller,
can
na?
file an updated return.
Yes, then you can. See, as long as you are not enhancing your refund. If you are reducing your refund, that means you are declaring some extra income. So in that case, you can file the updated return. Wherever you are declaring extra income, yes, you can.
okay. Now I request the CA Keur Dedia, Akola branch chairman, to have a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Pankaj sir. It was a very wonderful session, and at the outset, from all the branches, on behalf of WIRC and all the 7 branches hosting this particular seminar, first I would like to thank Ravi Gupta sir and Avinash Gupta sir that ये एकदम टाइम पे एक सिचुएशन आई जहां पे आप आए हैं और आपने बहुत ही अच्छे तरीके से you have explained out all the necessary amendments that are being proposed into the Union Budget 2022, and many points where we had a doubt that has been cleared up by you. So thank you, sir. Thank you for sparing your valuable time with all of us, and thank you to all the members over here. CA Manish Gadia sir, chairman for WIRC, CA Arpit Kabra sir, secretary for WIRC, and all the other members present over here. A very warm thank you from all the branches, all of us.
Drishti Desai ma'am is also there.
Please continue for the second session. Yes,
Yes.
sir. Over to you, Pankaj sir.
Yeah. Now I request Nilisha, chairperson of Solapur branch, to have a next session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Would you like to
Praveen, sir.
log out, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Praveen sir. It's very pleasant afternoon today after announcement of budget 2022. So namaste and good afternoon to all. I welcome all of you for the second session of Union Budget 2022, which is on indirect tax, hosted by WIRC, co-hosted by 7 branches. As Manish sir has mentioned, rainbow of 7 branches. Aurangabad jointly with Akola, Amravati, Jalgaon, Ahmednagar, Nanded and Solapur branch of WIRC. Yesterday only National Awards of Best Branch announced, and I'm very much glad to congratulate Aurangabad branch for the second best branch award and second best Vikasa branch award, and also Nanded branch for the second best Vikasa branch, and the team of both the branches. Now, today we are privileged with the legions and the expert speakers for our webinar. Unfortunately, CA Girish Ahuja sir could not give their expert deliberation on budget due to some critical reasons. And we are blessed with Dr. and Advocate Ravi Gupta sir, Avinash sir, in his place. Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful knowledge sharing and your deliberation. On 11th hour, you accepted our invitation. So thank you so much, sir. And our second session is on indirect tax. And we have with us expert speaker, respected advocate, CA V. Raghuraman, sir. Thank you so much, sir, and I welcome you. And now, well, I would acknowledge the presence of our beloved and dynamic WIRC chairman, CA Manish Gadia, sir, incredible secretary, CA Arpit Kabra, sir, vice chairman, CA Drishti Desai, ma'am, always ready to serve CA fraternity. My co-host branches chairman, CA Pankaj Soni, Sandeep Desada, sir, Keur Dedia, sir, CA Sunil Salampuria, sir, CA Vijay Vattamwar, sir, vice chairman, Yogesh Agrawal, Praveen Bangad, Pavan Jaju. And before we start, I request beloved Vice Chairman of WIRC, CA Drishti ma'am, to kindly give welcome remark. Over to you, ma'am. Drishti ma'am. Drishti ma'am?
Yeah, okay. Yes. So thank you, Nilasha, for this wonderful the remarks that you have given and the way you have acknowledged. I must say that this is really in a very short way you have covered everybody and even updated people on the events which are happening at the national level. That is all the awards and the recognition which is coming to our region. You know, it's an amazing thing, and I think that this is something that we have always been very proud of. That each one of us has really worked hard to get what we have, what we are getting every year without, I think, any breakage. So I would like to congratulate everybody, each and every branch, and really my heartiest congratulations for the hard work that is put up throughout the year, which has got us these awards in this year also. Now the other thing is that the speed at which you have put up this session on the analysis of the finance bill, which is very, very useful, and the virtual platform is doing wonders. So all of us, everybody, any corner of the region is able to get the benefit of best of the faculties who are coming and addressing and deliberating on the various amendments which have come about. Also, I would like to update that on 4th of this, that is just day after tomorrow, we are also having a deliberation on direct tax proposals by CA Gautam Doshi, which is on WRC platform. Again, a virtual program, so everybody will be able to attend. So, everybody has something new to add, and it's always very, very enriching to listen to all these learned speakers. Ravi Gupta ji also deliberated and gave his wonderful insights, and really I would like to acknowledge his efforts and the way he has explained everything. Thank you very much for that. And the other thing I wanted to update was also that we are also having a Women RRC, which is coming up on 19th and 20th of February. Nilasha madam is also very actively working on it. So all the women members, it will be really good. It is Women RRC to Tadoba, and we're going to have learning and also some adventure, visiting the tiger reserve, so it will be a lot of fun, learning together. So that's another thing I would like to encourage everybody to attend. And a few things about the budget. I would say that we always analyze the direct tax, indirect tax proposals. But somewhere I also, when I heard the budget, the finance bill and the budgetary allocations, I felt after a long time that there are so many proposals which are really in a very different direction. So we are not talking much of subsidies. We are talking more of, the allocations towards the areas where we need to invest. Of course, it's a very, very risky, it's a very big bar. I would say it's a very big bet. And let's hope that it all pans out well. It's a lot of capital expenditure which is involved, but I'm sure that will really have good impact in the long run on the economy. So immediate relief, we don't know whether that will give immediate relief or our economy is good enough to sustain on its own, because as such, after the COVID was over, the economy started rolling on its own. Let's hope, that the capital expenditure will not really have any impact or negative impact on the individual earnings. And we will have a very good, way forward. And with climate change, our commitment to climate change also is very clearly visible in this budget. So these were some of the thoughts. I just thought I'll put up this angle also to the budget, because you're talking only about taxes. So let me just talk about something else. It's a great thing, and it will really build our insight into what are the different sectors which will do well and what will, what is the future. So with this, thank you, Nilasha, for inviting me over. And I don't want to be in the way of the learned faculty and the audience today that has joined here. And I wish everyone very, very happy learning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your wonderful address and updation at WRC level. As we know, learning is something which is a hardcore part of our profession. And now we are very eager to hear from our expert speaker of the second session. So I request CS Sunil Salampuria Chairman of Amravati branch, to kindly introduce our elegant speaker, Dr. V. Raghuraman sir. Over to you, Sunil sir.
Thank you,
Sunil, sir?
Nilasha madam. Okay. May I audible, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I take this opportunity to welcome on today's today's second session presenter, Advocate V. Raghuraman sir, on Union Budget 2022 on indirect tax provisions. Sir is a designated senior advocate and he is a chartered accountant, cost accountant, and also company secretary with an excellent academic record, which includes first rank in BCom, 38th rank in CA Inter, 24th rank in CA Final, and second rank in CWA Inter, and 25th rank in CWA Final. His area of specialization includes taxation, FEMA, and other allied subjects. He has been practicing for over 3 decades before Supreme Court, High Courts, and tribunals. He has addresses large number of seminars and published several papers in national magazines on GST, excise, customs, service tax, and FEMA. He was the member of the Indirect Tax Committee of the ICAI, New Delhi during 2014-15. He was also author of the many books of indirect taxes. We love to hear from you, sir. I am sure that we will enrich by your speech in this seminar. With this brief profile, I welcome Advocate V. Raghuraman sir to deliver his words and presentation. Thank you, sir. Over to Nilasha madam.
Thank you, sir. Salampuria sir, thank you. Now I request directly Dr. V. Raghuraman sir to take the charge of the session.
Thank you.
Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, WIRC, for inviting me to share a few thoughts on the budget, especially relating to the indirect taxes scenario. I would be dwelling on the important changes that have been made in indirect taxes. But before that, I would like to mention that this is one of the, I don't know in my memory, when I have seen a budget really talking futuristic. There are many budgets which talk futuristic but do nothing. We have seen so many budgets in the 90s. Nothing is done. But this budget seems to be that the budget speech was very short as compared to the earlier years. There was a lot of focus on points. Several new initiatives have come out, like digital currency, new SEZ Act, which is going to come. You are going to see probably one of the best things about this budget and this government is that they're doing a fabulous job on infrastructure. And the infrastructure spending is also going up substantially. And that is an indirect way of leading to the demand. It will be a supply-led, demand-led budget, I would say. The revenues have been fairly reasonably targeted also. They have not overdone the revenues as the previous governments and this government used to do in the previous years. This time they have been realistic about the the estimates that they're doing, because last year because of the COVID impact, they had budgeted lower revenue and landed up having substantially higher revenues in this year. If you look at the collections today, if you look at 100 rupees is collected, it would mean 50 rupees comes from income tax and corporation tax. 50 rupees is coming from indirect taxes, where 29 rupees comes from GST alone. So GST is a very, very important tax reform, giving substantial revenues to the government, both the states and the center. As much as the budget is fabulous on the objectives that it wants to achieve, there is one, when it comes to taxation, the government somehow, I don't know, does not seem to have the same liking which they have for the other sectors of the economy. The taxpayers, though we get congratulated for paying taxes, the provisions, if we look at the provisions, we feel that it is very frightening. The provisions are by exception, not by the rule. It is very unfortunate that the GST law is taking a reverse mechanism. What do I mean by reverse mechanism? It is this. First, an action is initiated, then a rule is made. After they realize that there is nothing in the act is amended. This has been now going on for several years in GST. Normally, we make an act, then we make rules, and then we issue instructions. Here, technology will first say something, rules will say something, then the government will realize act, oh, we have, what about the legislative act? They'll say, okay, we'll make the change later. So today we have, a GST regime, which is in tatters, I will tell you openly. In fact, I would like to tell the viewers here that if you are getting 1,40,000 crores every month, you should thank the industry and the CS. The CS are helping this government in a no small way in filing returns and helping their assessees file returns in time. And the industry has been paying all these GST amounts. No official is coming and collecting. Let's be very clear. I heard some TV program where they say they thank the officials for collecting 1,40,000 crores. That's completely wrong. They should be thanking the industry for paying this tax. And over this pandemic, 6 months, 9 months, you see the GST revenue has been going well. And thanks should be to the industry and the professionals who are helping. I think the government should realize that the taxpayers are the ones who are actually standing up for this government as well as for the revenues. So with this beginning, I would like to say, I'm deeply disappointed with the provisions in the GST Act. I'm making it open and clear to all of you that, in fact, the GST law should have been made much more friendly. If you're collecting 1,40,000 crores over the last 1 year and you say it has stabilized into a good law, please make it easy for the industry. Why are you putting more and more restrictions on the industry? There is no need for it. Let us start by looking at what are those provisions which are really, I think, worrisome for the industry, very, very worrisome for the professional also. And while on the one hand, more than 1,000 laws have been repealed, this one GST law is going to lead to several rounds of litigation because of the provisions that have been brought in this Finance Bill 2022. What are they? Now, first and foremost, we will talk about this input tax credit mechanism. When the GST was introduced, what was told to us? We were told input tax credit mechanism is seamless. It is going to be easy for you to take the credit. Throughout India, wherever you buy services or goods, you will be enabled to take credit. It's a better system than your service tax and your excise and sales tax regime. This is what was told to us. But today, if you see the input tax credit mechanism, if I have made a purchase of services in Delhi, I cannot take the credit in Bombay unless the IGST bill happens. If it is a CGST, SGST bill, I cannot take the credit. I can't take for CGST, I can't take for SGST. So what kind of seamless credit mechanism are we having? Nothing. It's a complete failure. In fact, the CGST credit mechanism in this budget should have been made seamless across the country. If I pay CGST in Delhi, why cannot I take the credit in Bombay? I should be allowed to do so. But the system which we have today, the seamless credit system, does not allow that. On the contrary, they have put several restrictions in this budget, which makes it virtually difficult to take credit anymore. What are those changes? In the initial period when GST was introduced, the government wanted to do a system of matching of credits. Matching, that is, whatever the supplier gives as invoice, his output tax will be matched with my input documents and the credit will be given. So they had introduced GSTR 1, 2, 3. They had section 42, 43, 43A, etc. Now the system failed. They were unable to do the system which was envisaged by the original statute. Because of this failure, they brought about GSTR 3B and GSTR 1, only two which are functioning today. GSTR 2 and 3 are non-functional. In spite of all their best efforts over the last 4 or 5 years, this GSTR 2 and 3 is non-functional. So they have realized this budget and deleted, or they're proposing to delete section 42 and 43 and 43A, 3 sections, because this matching, etc. is of no use. It is not happening. It is not going to happen. So they've deleted these sections. Well and good, you delete those sections. We have no qualms with it. After having deleted the section, what have you done? The first thing that they have done is, while clause 105, they have brought about section 41. This concept of provisional credit has been done away with under section 41, and they have put in a new section 41. This section 41 talks of availment of input tax credit. And they have said here, you can avail input tax credit as self-assessed in your return and credit it to the electronic credit ledger, subject to conditions and restrictions as may be specified. And where tax credit is availed but not paid by the supplier, then the credit should be reversed with applicable interest. And when the tax is paid by the supplier, you can retake the credit. Now let us look at what is happening in input tax credit. You have section 16, where already input tax credit you are taking. You are availing input tax credit under section 16 of the CGST Act, subject to whatever conditions are there. There are 5 conditions that have been prescribed. Now putting section 41 and saying availment in the returns, what has happened today is that you have 2 sections which are at loggerheads with each other, section 16 and section 40. Section 16 talks of entitlement to credit. Section 41 talks of availment of credit. Now these 2 are at loggerheads with each other. How do you reconcile these 2? Now I was reading through the provisions, and it appears to me that section 16 does not talk of availment in the returns. It talks of availment in the books of accounts, probably. It doesn't say so, but this is what it means. Well, section 41 talks of availment in the returns. So you have parallel provisions which are not matching with each other. I can take credit in my books of accounts. There are 5-6 conditions which are prescribed. And I cannot take the credit beyond the time limit of November as they have proposed now in the amendments in this budget of next year under 16(4). This is as far as the books of accounts are concerned. Now you look at section 41, there is no restriction. You can take the credit, you can avail the credit in your return, take it into the ledger, electronic credit ledger. The only restriction is that the payment should have been done by the supplier. And that is not done, you lose the credit. If that is done, you can retake the credit. So there is a confusion in the minds of the government what they want to do, leaving the assessees in a very serious amount of problems. On the one hand, the availment of input tax credit and 16 is subject to 5-6 conditions. On the other hand, in 41, you have only one condition, and that condition is impossible to be satisfied. Therefore, this, after the Finance Act 2022 comes, you are going to have serious challenge to section 41 because it is unworkable. And section 16 and 41 are parallel provisions, each having their own peculiarities, and there is going to be challenge in both. Now, what is the way out of this? Let us see as we go into the session and see the other sections. We will see how the government has probably not understood this input tax credit scheme at all. Now, what they are saying is this: they have amended section 38 by removing the old section 38 and bringing in a new one, because as I told you earlier, GSTR 2 and 3 have been shelved permanently. The sections have been deleted. So today you have GSTR 1, which is reporting the outward supplies under section 37. You have under 39, section 39, GSTR 3B being filed. So under 38, they are proposing to do this. They say this: when a person does an outward supply under section 37, he files a GSTR 1. From there, an auto population or auto generated statement is going to happen. This statement will consist of 2 sections. One where credit may be available, second where credit is not available. So your auto-populated statement under section 37 will have 2 entries. One where you will have credit which is available, and one you will have credit which is not available. Now, why credit cannot be available? Section 38 sets out certain instances where credit will not be available to the recipient. Why? Because the supplier has incurred some liability, some inability. What are those instances? Instance number 1. Immediately on registration, he dispatches certain goods. The government is empowered to say he will not take the credit till such time his certain registration formalities are complete. 1. I hope I could also be like Mr. Chetan, stretching my arms. I have been so tired, Mr. Chetanji, of having to read this. I hope I could also stretch my arms. Supply by any registered person where the output tax payable exceeds the output tax paid. I'll give you an example. Let us say that I am buying the goods from Mr. Chetanji, and Chetanji has not paid his taxes fully. Assume. So I will be denied the credit. Section 38 will show this as an amount which is not paid fully by Mr. Chetan. He may have paid for this invoice, but he may be a defaulter in general. This is enough for the credit to get blocked. Instance number 3. The registered person is a general defaulter. He doesn't pay taxes at all. The earlier instance I gave you is where he pays a portion of the tax. Now he doesn't pay tax at all, so he is a defaulter. In such cases, whoever purchases from him cannot avail the credit. 4. The government may fix a limit per supplier based on which he will not be able to take credit. So if I buy from him, I will not take the credit. Now let us assume in my example, Chetanji has to pay 100 rupees tax. Government has said has fixed limit 80 rupees through credit ledger, 20 rupees through cash. But Chetanji has paid 90 rupees or 100 rupees fully through credit. He has not paid any cash. He has flouted the norms fixed by the government, because in this budget, they are introducing section 49 subsection 12, which says the government is empowered to fix limits of utilization of credit ledger. That means they may say X months output tax liability, only 80% you can utilize credit ledger, 20% you have to forego and take it forward to the next month. Now, if Chetanji has defaulted on that, I will not get the credit, even though I have paid him the money. So these kind of conditions have been fitted into 38, which will be auto-populated. Now you look at it, they will auto-populate, give you two categories, one where credit is allowable, one where credit is not allowable. Now, if you were to take this credit in your return, that return will have to show only what is allowable. And if you try to take the credit which is not allowable, it will not allow you to do so. Now, are these conditions valid? Is the question. If you look at section 38 and the example I gave you, the conditions of asking the end recipient, penalizing him for non-payment by the supplier, is completely unconstitutional. Several judgments are there. Arise India's case, where the Delhi High Court's judgment was confirmed by the Supreme Court in Delhi state VAT laws. In Beckel's case, Madras High Court also said the same thing. They said you cannot deny the recipient credit unless you have gone after the supplier. If you don't go after the supplier, how can you deny the credit to the recipient? Therefore, section 38, as it stands, they want to introduce denying credit on certain clauses here, I think will face a serious challenge in the courts. It is going to happen as soon as the Finance Act is passed. Consequently, in section 16, they have introduced a clause BA saying that if you are subjected to restrictions under 38, you cannot take the credit. If there are any restrictions under 38, you cannot take the credit. So this 16 BA also, along with 16 AA and 16C, are susceptible to challenge and will be challenged in the high courts when the Finance Act becomes a reality. 16.4, as I told you some time back, they have now made the time limit for availing credit. They've extended the time limit. Earlier it was when the returns of September next year you file, or the annual return, whichever is earlier. Now they have made it 30th November or annual return, whichever is earlier. So it makes it easy for you to another 1 month or 1.5 months extra credit time you get for the purpose of reconciling and taking credits. So that is 16.4 amendment is welcome. It's a good thing. Now, clause 100 of the finance bill talks of registered person opting for composition levy. In the earlier period, the composition levy, the person under that had to file periodical returns. Now, you know, it is an annual return. So they have made amendments saying that if he does not give the return within 3 months of due date, then in such cases, his registration is liable to be cancelled if action is taken. And all other registered persons who have not given their returns for 6 months continuously, the registration was proposed to be cancelled under section 29. Now they are going to put that into the rules. So effectively the statute says 6 months, but now they're amending that statute and they're going to take it to the rules. Rules may say if you don't file it for 3 months, you lose the registration. So it is going to become more difficult for people if they do not comply with the law, they will risk losing the registration. And when they lose the registration, the next thing they will do is go to the courts and try to fight it out. Now, this is going to only add to litigation again. Consequent to changes in section 16 bracket 4, they have also amending section 34, where they say that the credit notes could be issued. There also the time period for issuance of credit note was linked to the September returns of next year or the annual return. Now that September end or return has been made to 30th of November or December end, or annual returns are filed, whichever is earlier. So this is how it is going to be as far as credit notes are concerned. You get some extra time, and that is also good. Now under section 37, you know that you're filing a GSTR1. There's been a lot of litigations in section 37. There are some amendments that are proposed. The government is now getting empowered to prescribe conditions and restrictions which they can do as far as outward supply communication is concerned. The two-way communication which was there earlier under section 37 and 38, especially 38, is being done away with. There will be no two-way communication, no further confusion. Whatever returns the outward supplier files, that as per the government will be binding on the recipient. So what they have said here is that by the rules it will be prescribed. When the returns, that is the GSTR 1 communication, will be done to the recipient. Once that communication is done, rectification of errors cannot happen then. It can happen only subsequently. Once that is done, then it will be seen how much of credit is available, how much of credit is not available. Based on that, the recipient can take the credit. Now, rectification of errors of any return can happen up to November 30th of the end of the next financial year. This period has been relaxed by the government. But what the government doesn't realize is this. If you look at 37 and 38 that is proposed, let us assume this way. I will give you an example. Let us assume that I am filing returns for the month of October. I have time till November 20th to pay the tax. Now, when a communication is made of my outward supplies, let us say, tax would not have been paid. So how are you going to segregate this between two categories? One where credit is available and not available. You will not be able to do it because I have time till 20th to pay the tax. This anomaly that is there, which we have observed in section 37 and 38, we have to wait for the rules and see how they draft the rules. And then we will know whether the scheme will work or it will not. Furnishing of returns under 39 and 3B, there are some changes that have happened. You are all aware that registered non-resident taxable persons are liable to file their returns. Now that, which was 20 days, has been reduced to 13 days. That is, the October returns, they will have to file by November 13th, not November 20th. Similarly, quarterly return filers who would be filing the returns, they have also been subjected to some changes, where apart from payment of taxes for quarterly return filers, there is an additional condition that has been granted. They could self-determine and pay the tax. Now, the government is also empowered to direct them to pay some minimum tax, as the case may be. So that amendment has happened. We'll have to see how that amendment will work. Rectification of errors in GSTR 3B can go up to 30th of November next year or annual returns, whichever is earlier. So that facility of rectifying also has been provided. Extended time limit has been given. There's one important thing. In the earlier section 39, if I did not file the previous 3Bs, I cannot file a 3B now for this month. They have brought in an additional restriction saying if you have not filed a GSTR1 also in the earlier months, you can't file a 3B now. So effectively, it means if I have to file my 3B today, I should have filed my GSTR1 and 3B for all the previous months. If I don't do it, I will not be allowed to file the GSTR 3B this month. So that means the industry, especially the MSME sector, which has been seriously affected by this pandemic, should note that if they don't file their returns, they are also liable for the registration to get cancelled. So it becomes a serious issue. And if their registration is cancelled, they don't pay the tax. The person who purchases from them, the department will deny them credit. So it is a cascading effect of issues that is going to happen in the GST. Now, late filing of returns under section 47, some changes have been made. Now you don't need to file any return under section 38 because section 38 has been recast completely. So any late fee relating to that has been removed. But delay in filing the TDS returns under 52(6), that is TCS, tax collection at source, return under section 52, will attract late fee from now on. Let us look at section 49 where some changes have been made. I told you in the beginning of the speech that they have made some restrictions which came through the rules and then came into the act. You would have known of Rule 86B, where they restricted 1% to be paid by, 99%, 1%, 86B. They brought about some. There was no empowering mechanism. Now in section 49(4), they have empowered the government to prescribe restrictions on utilization of amount available in the electronic credit ledger. So first you introduce a rule, then find that the act is lacking, then you amend the act. That is what they have done here. Now, transfer of credit in the electronic credit ledger from one unit to another unit within the same distinct persons is possible to be done. Such a transfer will be treated as a refund of, it effectively means a refund of the cash ledger. So if I have some cash in my ledger sitting, let us say in Bombay, and I want to transfer it to my distinct person, another, say, branch office in Delhi, that is possible to be done. But when I do that, it will amount to a refund of tax as far as the Bombay unit is concerned. So all the refund provisions will apply in the sense that I can do that refund and adjustment, but that refund will have to be done only by following certain procedures, which I will mention to you when I come to section 54. Now let us look at one very important thing which I told you, 49(12), which they propose to introduce, where they say the government can restrict your utilization of input tax credit. By specifying, you can pay only a particular percentage for payment of output taxes. In other words, today, what are you doing? As you take credit, 100% you utilize first. Only the balance you pay in cash. Now, government is getting empowered to restrict it. They may tell you, starting April month up to June, you can utilize only 80% of your electronic credit ledger. 20% you have to defer the utilization. That power is being given to the government under 49(12). In my view, this kind of an arbitrary power being given to the government is completely illogical, unconstitutional, and is going to face a serious challenge in the courts. Welcome amendment section 50, where they say retrospective amendment has been made from 1/7/2017, interest on input tax credit. There was a lot of confusion whether input tax credit availment and utilization, whether interest can be charged, not charged. The earlier section 50 read that only on mismatches you will be liable to pay interest. The GST council discussed these provisions and came to a conclusion that we should go to a mechanism where the judgment of the Karnataka High Court in Bill Forge's case should be recognized as the correct law. GST council came to the view that only if input tax credit is availed and utilized, interest will be levied. Why? I'll give you a simple example. Let us assume Chetanji pays his taxes and I take the credit. Sorry, Mr. Chetanji, I'm using your name frequently, but this is to make it easy to understand. He pays the taxes, I take the credit. Now let us say that credit, I should not have taken the credit. Let us say it's a restricted credit or whatever it is. There is a dispute about the credit. Just by availing credit, has the government had any loss? The answer is no. Why? Because Chetanji has already paid the tax. Only that tax I'm taking credit. So the concept of charging interest only on availment was always been a subject matter of disputes even under the earlier regime. In InSwift laboratories, the Supreme Court said interest could be charged, but there the facts were different because that was a case of fraud. When the similar case in input tax credit came up before the Karnataka High Court in Bill Forge's case in Senvat credit, there the Karnataka High Court said it is only on utilization that the government will lose tax. Otherwise, availment alone, there is no interest liability. So that has been recognized by the present amendments proposed in section 50 with retrospective effect from 1/7/2017. This amendment would mean that if you have already paid that interest, you can take a refund. The interest rate also has been reduced from 24% to 18% retrospectively by clauses 110 and 115, especially 115. They have made a retrospective amendment where they reduced the interest rate from 24 to 18%. Now, if any of your clients have already paid that interest, the refund of such interest can be claimed by them because of this retrospective amendment. Question will arise. Another question which arises. You have made a retrospective amendment to the interest clause. Let us say till now no demand has been made. Now a demand notice is issued. Can this retrospective amendment make you liable for interest? Is the question. By a retrospective amendment, can you say you are liable to pay interest at all in the first place? That is the question which we have to see. In my humble view, if you look at the decision of the Supreme Court in Star India's case, which is reported in 1 STR 2006, Justice S.B. Sinha's decision, I remember. He says that sometimes even interest can be penal in nature and retrospectivity cannot be implied. You cannot charge it retrospectively. So probably, I don't know, we have to try this out. If there are any demands on interest which come to you, to your clients, quoting the new section 50, we may have to fight it out on retrospectivity and rely on Star India's case. Section 54, some amendments have been made. Earlier in 54, if I wanted to claim any excess balance in my electronic cash ledger, I could directly claim it in the return itself. My 3B, if I indicate it, I get the refund. Now it is not so. The proposal is that they are going to prescribe a form through rules and you have to apply only in that form. That is the first hit. Second, for SCZ supplies, there was no definition of relevant date. As you know, in section 54, you have to file your refund claim within 2 years of the relevant date. So for SEZ, now they have said the relevant date will be the return filed relating to such supply of the SEZ. So when you file the return, within 2 years, you'll have to file the refund claim also. Now, if you look at adjustment of refund with demand, this is a very interesting topic. Under section 54, the existing provision says if there is any outstanding demand or refund that can be adjusted against any demand. Now, in the existing provisions, they had talked of refund of unutilized input tax credit only to be adjusted. That is, let us say that I have a refund of unutilized input tax credit. I also have a demand. The department can adjust this unutilized input tax credit with my demand and give me only the net amounts, if any. Other types of refunds you could not adjust. In this budget, they have proposed any refund which is due to the assessee. If there is a demand, then the government is empowered to adjust this refund with the demand. Now, questions that arise is, let us assume a show cause notice is issued, demanding some amounts. And a refund is also due to you on account of, say, exports or whatever it is. Can this refund of exports be adjusted against a show cause notice demand is the question. In my humble view, it cannot be done. Demand means that it has to be a crystallized demand, a demand which has crystallized. A show cause notice is only a proposal. You answer the proposal, an order is passed, and then you go in appeal. So in my humble view, till such time the appeal is decided one way or the other and the matter reaches finality, it is not possible for you to adjust the refund with the demand. If they do so, you will have to immediately go to the High Court and challenge such an action. Now, for supplies to UN, that is United Nations, they could claim a refund within 6 months earlier. Now they have extended that period of 6 months to 2 years. Retrospective amendments, some of it which I have already told you are covered here, but some other retrospective amendments which are good. Now, there is a lot of disputes relating to two aspects. Aspect number one, fish meal. Now, this fish meal industry has been facing a lot of demands on its products, byproducts. They've brought about a retrospective amendment saying effective 1st of July 2017 up to September 19, 30th September 19, all demands in this respect will be waived. And whatever is collected, of course, refund will not be granted, but there will be no disputes as far as 1st July 2017 to 30th September 2019 is concerned in respect of waste generated during the production of fish meal. So clause 114 is very clear on that. Two, there is a lot of disputes pending with several courts on the license fee collected by the government while granting a license for alcoholic liquor for human consumption. See, state governments collect a fee and they'll give you a liquor license. Now, what this our GST authorities were doing is that they wanted to collect a GST on the license fee. So, to put an end to these disputes, a retrospective amendment is being made, wherein from 1/7/2017, these there will be no such levy which will come about. These are in broad the GST amendments that are proposed. In customs, there is one very important amendment which I would like to talk about. You are all aware of the Canon India's case, where the intelligence wing, the DRI, Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, who issued show cause notices, the Supreme Court said they are not proper officers and such a show cause notice is invalid in law. We have used the same decision to stay notices issued by the DGG STI. That is the DGG STI, the intelligence wings of the GST. In Karnataka High Court, I have got a stay on all those notices issued by DGG STI. Now, they are proposing an amendment and a validation for all those notices issued under the Customs Act. We are going to have a fresh round of litigation because they want to overcome the decision of the Supreme Court in such cases. And we have to fight it out to see whether this could be overcome or not overcome. Customs duty. Notifications have been issued. Several notifications have been rescinded or modified. The intent of the government is to encourage what they say, local manufacturing. Made in India or Atmanirbhar is the focus of the government. So they are trying to reduce the customs duty on raw materials and increase the customs duty on end product. For example, solar panels, they have done the same thing. They've increased the duty on the end product, but they're trying to reduce the duties on the inputs. This exercise has been carried out for several products which they have done. And of course, that is not a subject matter of this discussion, but to give you a primer, around 2 lakh crores is collected by way of customs duty in the country. Let me give you a primer. Around 4 lakh crores comes from excise duty. Around 2 lakhs and odd crores come from basic customs duty. And I told you 29% comes, almost 29% of the revenue comes from GST. But the center share of GST will be around 7,80,000 crores in the coming year, that is 22-23, which is a huge amount. So tax revenues are around 23 lakh crores. This is the kind of revenues that are going to be collected in the coming year. That being so, my request to this government would be this only. Input tax credit. When you introduce the Constitution Amendment Bill in 2016, when you introduced it, you said one of the objectives of GST is to ensure seamless credit. Seamless credit across the country. This is the objective with which you introduced. 16(1) also in the CGST Act is worded like that. Any tax paid on goods or services which are used in the course of furtherance of business, you can take credit. You started this way. Today, where are you? CGST in Delhi, I can't take in Bombay. SGST in Delhi, I can't take in Bombay. Only IGST is seamless. You have put so many restrictions in Section 16. The supplier should pay the tax. Supplier should upload these documents. Now you are saying supplier should file returns. He should pay taxes not only on your invoice, but on everybody's invoice. You have made it virtually impossible for us to run this input tax credit. It would be better, in my opinion, it would be better for you to say in the act this way. Have only one section for input tax credit. Don't have this so many sections and rules. One section. Input tax credit shall be allowed at the discretion of the officers who run the GST department. Simple. That will solve all problems. You will never be able to take any input tax credit. It's a misfortune that the ITC, which has been one of the profit centers for the industry, is being reduced to a restrictive input tax claim. So I think if this is rectified, this budget will be a wonderful document which will be a reference for the entire future. So with this, I thank the organizers for inviting me. If you have any questions, you can ask me.
It was really a wonderful session. The way you have made interaction, it became simple and friendly to understand the budget carefully. Hats off to you, sir, for your expert knowledge and deep understanding of various sections of indirect tax. Thank you so much, sir. And before going for the question answer session, recently our beloved RCM C. Umesh Sharma sir joined the session. I welcome him and offer him a very warm welcome, and we'll proceed to our question answer session. So I request Vice Chairman of Amravati branch, Pawan Jaju, to take charge of the session. Over to you, sir. Pawan, sir. Pawan, sir, please.
Ma'am, unmuting. Yogesh, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity to take question and answer session in such a wonderful session of Raghuraman sir, senior advocate. It was excellent session. I think there will not be any query, but if any member have any queries, they are requested to raise their hand or put it in the chat box. Just raise your hand. We will unmute then and we will take the queries. Whatever any query, yes, ma'am. Can you please unmute Anand Nahar sir? He has raised his hand.
Yogesh sir.
Yes, Anand bhai. Anand Nahar sir.
Yes, sir. You are on unmute mode. You can ask.
Anand Nahar, sir.
Okay.
I can see Manish ji. Good to see him.
Sir, thank you very much for accepting our invitation and to be at WIRC. Because we always, it's always a treat to listen to you, and the way you explain is really, really great. Yeah.
Okay.
I think, ma'am, there are no more queries.
Yes.
Let's move ahead. Over to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
He made it.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Okay.
Sir, would like to just, can you please elaborate again the amendment that is proposed with regards to the section 4912? That is, government has been empowered to fix the utilization of the credit ledger.
Yes. See, I'll give you a simple example. As I've told you, their empowerment is earlier, the availment were restricted. They have several sections under section 16, section 41, availment restrictions were there. Utilization restrictions were never there. So when I avail the credit, 100% I can utilize for my tax payment. Nobody can stop me and say you should utilize only 80% for this month, carry forward 20%. Now 4912 says that the government is empowered to direct assessees or class of assessees that only that they could fix a percentage, a proportion to be paid in cash and proportion to be paid in check. This happens when they face revenue shortage. Earlier, they used to call you quietly in the excise days or service tax days. They'll call you by the side and tell the industry, please pay 90% through cash, 10%, 90% through credit, 10% through cash. They're formally making it now, which means at any point of time when they don't have money coming in, they probably would put such a restriction. I have a feeling that this restriction 4912 is not only going to be challenged, it is going to be struck down.
sir, just to discuss further. So previously, unofficially, excise commissioner used to call that we have also, both of us have seen. Now officially he will issue a notice.
Yes.
On this, and you can't do anything.
You can.
Yeah, that's what we want to listen, sir.
You can.
Constitutionally,
Constitutionally,
where we are standing on this.
You are standing very good on this because 4912 is an arbitrary exercise of legislative power. You please see the decision and discussion of the Supreme Court in Shaira Banu's case, Triple Talaq. They have laid out certain principles, including Pepsi's case, Pepsi Foods case, where the Supreme Court says, if your policy is arbitrary, it will be struck down. Here is a legislation where they say you have seamless credit. Having said so, they cannot put an artificial restriction on the utilization without any means or defining a criteria for it. They simply cannot say, March onwards, my revenues are very less. You pay 80% through cash, 20% through credit. You can't do that. It becomes an arbitrary exercise of power. So therefore, in my view, 4912 is a good candidate to be struck down with it. It will be, you just see, it will get struck down.
Sir, one more question. One more question, that now they have said that if 1 and 3B, there is a difference. Then also utilization restrictions and that all these issues are.
Yes.
So what is your view constitutionally as well as legally, sir?
As
I want
my
constitutional also, if you can.
Constitutionally, I'm very clear on this, that the conditions put in 16, that is 16(2)AA,
yeah,
16(2)C, 16(2)BA, which they are going to introduce, are clearly unconstitutional. The amendments proposed in section 38 will be struck down as being too wide, as laid down by the principles in Bombay Dying's case. When they read down section 4 of the Excise Act, if you remember, I don't know if you remember, in Excise Act, there was something called related person transaction. In section 4, they say if you sell through a related person and a distributor, that person's value will be taken for your assessment. So the assessees challenged it, saying any related person, if you are any distributor, if you are going to do this, it is too wide. So Supreme Court read it down to say a related person who's a distributor. Only they will be penalized, or the values will be suspect, others will not be. The same way, this is called reading down a provision under Article 14. The same way here also, all these provisions, I will tell you this, there is a principle in law, lex non cogit impossibilia. I am a recipient of the, let us say, inputs supplied by you. How can I, if you don't pay the tax, how can I be penalized for it? In fact, I would like to also point out and tell you, you have parallel provisions in 75(12), where you can recover the tax from the supplier if he has filed the return and not paid it. How can you come after me as a person who is a recipient of services or inputs? So the entire section 38 is going to be challenged, and I'm quite sure it will go.
Yeah. Sir, we have with us CA Umesh Sharma.
Yes, sir.
Who is a regional council member and chairman of GST Direct Tax Committee, and now newly elected CCM also. Umesh
Very
Bhaiya.
good. Very good. Congratulations.
Yeah. So Umesh Bhaiya, anything you want to share?
Yes, thank you, Manish sir, for giving an opportunity to discuss on this important subject of GST. First of all, thanks to WIRC, thanks to Aurangabad branch, Amravati branch, Sholapur branch, Nanded, Akola, all are the friendly branches. Kiska naam lu, kiska nahi, aisa ho jata hai. And it has been a very good session today on the budget. In direct tax, we have Girish Ahuja sir, and indirect tax, Raghu Raman sir. What to tell about Raghu Raman sir? Sir, when we listen to you, we think that we have to fight with the department because these sections is not working, this rule is not correct. But practically what happens when we go to our clients, they don't want to fight against the department, or they are not well versed with the provisions, and the genuine taxpayers are suffering. But as a chartered accountants who are present here, let me tell you that the time has come. We have to listen to Raghu Raman sir and inculcate that practice in ourselves, that we have to fight our cases of the clients if there is a substantial issue with the ITC, because the days are going to come. Now we chartered accountants need to gear up for the legal fight on ITC much more, which was there earlier, but now it is going to happen much more. So at our institute level, we are also gearing up for the knowledge update series on this, and also on the litigation aspects which are going to arise from this. So I request all the participants to send their queries or send their suggestions, so we can implement that into our post-budget memorandum, which we are going to submit to the government soon. So you can give it to WIRC, you can send it to your branches. We will incorporate that and we will send it to the government. With this, I wish you all a very good learning, and it's a pleasure to listen to Raghu Raman sir. And we are blessed, sir, that immediately on 2nd February, we are listening to you on the budget session. Thank you.
And that's the best part is with the case laws and with the constitution, everything he has analyzed within less than 24 hours. So really great, sir. So after reading budget, I thought it is better not to take any ITC, looking at the provisions. But after hearing you, now we can,
please go ahead.
We can take everything now.
I'm telling you this principle in ITC. I have told this across the country so many times. When you are sure, take credit. When you are in doubt, take credit. Don't lose it.
Correct.
Take the credit.
So that is the punchline of entire session, that I can say that when you are sure, take credit. In doubt, take credit.
That's all.
Okay.
Sir, in the earlier session, right now at the ICIHO, CBIC member DP Nagendra Kumar sir were there. And he also said that we don't want the officers interfere in ITC, and we want to make it a system driven, technology driven.
You see,
but looking toward the provision, it is a vice versa.
No, sir, when I talked about this many years back, 2-3 years back, when GST was introduced, I said the future of disputes will be the disconnect between the law and technology. Law will tell something, technology will do something else. This is going to be the future of disputes in GST. That what they are doing is they are building a technology which will automatically block your credits, do all sorts of rubbish, and then they will amend the law to suit the technology.
Yeah,
make it very difficult for assessees to do certain things. So you will have fight of law versus technology coming very shortly, and it is already started.
Thank you, Umesh Sharma sir, for your wonderful address and closing remark. Thank you, Manish Garia sir, again for wonderful interaction over here. Now I request Chairman of Nanded Branch, Vijay Vattamwa sir, for formal vote of thanks. Over to you, sir. Sir, unmute yourself. Vijay Vattamwa sir.
Thank you, Nilasha ma'am. First of all, I thank the legend of the profession, V. Raghuraman sir, who is the Bhishma Pitama in indirect taxes and GST. And I thank him for his wonderful speech on the next day of the budget, analyzing the provisions, availment, and of ITC and other practical problems which will be faced by us as well as the dealers. He has explained it in very lucid and thorough manner, and he has given us the address that the law and the technology is going to be the litigative problems in future, and we have to gear up for that. I thank Manish Gadia sir and his team, WIRC, for arranging today's session on direct and indirect taxes and arranging the legends of our profession, both the legends, Girish Ahuja sir and Raghuraman sir. But unfortunately, we couldn't listen to Girish Ahuja sir due to his personal problems. But Ravi Gupta sir has explained the provisions regarding the direct taxes in very lucid manner. I thank all the chairmen and MCM of co-host branches, especially Pankaj Soni sir, chairman of Aurangabad branch, his team, then Ahmednagar branch, Akola branch, Jalgaon branch, Solapur branch, of course, Nilasha ma'am is there, who is MOC for the session, Amravati branch, and our Nanded branch MCM also. I also thank all the participants who have given the overwhelming response for the session. Thank you very much. And once again, I thank WIRC, Nilasha ma'am and Aurangabad branch for giving me this opportunity to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, WIRC, and all of you for your wonderful presence and patience over here. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raghuraman sir. Thank you, Umesh Sharma sir. Thank you, Manish Gadia sir, team WIRC. Thanks for giving this opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
सर कैसे हैं सर?
बस बाकी बढ़िया भाई।
क्या बोलता है केयूर?
बस बढ़िया सर, फर्स्ट क्लास। हम तो आपकी निश्रा में हैं।
क्या है?
आपके गाइडेंस में, आपके अंडर में।
अच्छा ऐसा, ओके ओके।
अब क्या हो गया? अब 15 दिन बाद में आपको जीएसटी में परेशान करना चालू करेगा।
नहीं केवल सर, आप जो बोले वो बात पे स्टक अप रहो। केवल सर, आप जो बात बोले वो बात पे स्टक अप रहो आप पहले।
बिल्कुल। अभी उमेश सर ऊपर बिजी हो जाएंगे तो अपन इधर परेशान मनीष सर को करेंगे।